At home, I didn't sleep. There, 3 hours sleep.
She thought you were very irritable.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't there, so I mean.
I imagine you were.
Should get the Irish up there. She can smile.
The old Brennan charm.
This is a bit of the birds as well.
Okay, I'll call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Thursday, February 21st, 2019 at 7:02. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
Third item is the agenda approval. I'd like to make a change to the agenda. Well, first I'll ask, is there anything someone would like to add to the agenda? Okay, what I'd like to do is on new business, C, there's discussion of developing a 5-year plan. And since Amy's here, I'd like to move that item 11C to follow item number 5, the Parks and Rec budget workshops, the continuation. So then Amy can talk and we can discuss a 5-year plan, and then we'll move on with the rest of the agenda. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move that to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we're all here. So, Melissa, if you want to come back up.
We're going to go back through this.
Yes, and we haven't gone through any of them, made any of the budget interviews.
No, I understand. I thought we were going to do this, the 5-year plan now, so.
Oh,
No, we're going to do it after Melissa.
So Melissa can go home.
So Melissa can go home, and then I'll do the long-range planning with you guys, and then I can go home.
All right.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so we were talking about the senior center.
It's tab 5, and it's the first one in tab 5. 710-100.
So again, just like the human services budget, we are requesting the addition of 1 new part-time driver to complement really our vision of expanding the senior center to more evening programming and being able to offer evening programming and later in the day programming for the seniors of East Windsor. Currently, the center closes at 3 o'clock, and there are a lot of activities that go around in this region that we would like to take the seniors to. For example, concerts, car shows, car cruises that we also host. And we're very limited on being able to do that due to only having 1 part-time driver.
In the sections of activities, functions, and responsibilities, you list a number of things that apparently go on, like bingo, movies, and jewelry making, arts and crafts, and so on. Those are ongoing programs?
Those are ongoing programs that occur monthly.
How many people participate in those?
So we have a wide variety of numbers. I can tell you so far this year, I don't know if you have a specific program that you're looking for.
Just kind of a general.
So anywhere between 30 in our art class. Our program supervisor there, Shauna, she's a choices counselor, so she helps with Medicare, Medicaid signups, and she averages about 9 or 10 a month. We have a focus group that comes, and that's about 14 to 15 people. Bob comes once a month and does coffee with the first selectman, and again, that's anywhere between 14 and 20 people. that come to that as well. And then we have our daily lunch that come, and we average usually around 30, 35 a day.
Is that many?
What is that, focus group? What is that?
Focus group is a group of seniors that really are taking an interest in the center and trying to give us ideas on places they would like to go and eat. We've started a Friday eating plan because they like to go out to eat, so they pick one restaurant a month that we focus on, and they go and they basically review the restaurant and pick new places to go to.
Is that an offshoot of the group that was trying to, this goes back a number of years, well before your time, but to revamp the programming in general at the senior center?
So it's a correlation of that, but it's just another group of seniors. Some of them are new to the town and recently retired, that just come in and give us our thoughts on the programs that we do run, programs they'd like to see, and just the overall makeup of the center, trying to give the ownership to the seniors.
And you also, in that same paragraph, talk about several trips that are offered. What kind of, what do you?
So for example, we're going tomorrow to the flower show.
Oh,
at
awesome.
The convention center.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Do you need a chaperone?
I'm sure Shauna would like the company. So we go, like I said, we're going there. We do the S16 thing. Again, last week, we went to Bernie's Depot, Diner Depot, for the prime rib. I've never seen seniors eat a whole plate of prime rib, but
Where is that?
Massachusetts. It's called Bernie's Diner Depot, and they give you, it's on a train,
All right.
and they give you like a conductor cut of beef, and it's literally just a big, I don't eat red meat, so it's very interesting, but, so we go a whole host of places, local and
Casinos.
closely.
The casinos.
We haven't really been going there that often. They're starting to ask again. I think in the spring we'll take a trip to Springfield. We haven't. We tried to get away from doing that. A lot of our seniors are on fixed incomes, so trying to not encourage that spending. And then I find out a group of them went to Atlantic City this weekend. So, well, that's on their own. So, but
Can you use like Common Plus service to you?
no, we just use our dial-a-ride service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So our dial-a-ride is all in-house,
Okay.
and we take them with us. So we're limited to a small number that can go on those trips, usually 13 to 15.
How many people normally go?
We've been filling buses and having a waiting list, so 15 passenger,
One bus.
20 passenger,
Generally.
yeah, one bus, because I can only allot one driver. That would take away from medicals or grocery shopping.
Okay.
But if we had the additional part-time driver, potentially we could send more than one bus.
So before we turn to the actual numbers in your budget, there's for the benefit of folks who are in the audience and might be watching online, there's a couple of things that I'd like to highlight from your report. In the last year, you served 7,344 meals, delivered through volunteer drivers 5,540 meals, and provided 8,918 round-trip rides traveling 29,000 miles. That's an awfully impressive list of accomplishments.
Yeah, the transportation and nutrition departments both are a tremendous asset to this community, and we're trying to encourage more and more users. That's one of the reasons why we're doing the home show this year, is to get more information out there about the dial-a-ride and try to get clients to use the dial-a-ride to take them to their doctor's appointment, to give a little bit of a lesser burden on their families, so they're not having to take days off from work to care for them.
And that 29,000 miles are miles driven in our vehicles.
In our vehicles. We also had to deny 338 trips, requests
People
this year.
who were on waiting lists that could
Deny
not.
how many?
338.
And that was for what? And then to go where?
Different doctor's appointments, bank requests, maybe if our grocery shopping was full for that day. We only go grocery shopping on certain days of the week. But mostly it's medical requests.
The appointments that they had to go to.
Appointments that they had, if they might not have called us soon enough, we might not have been able to fit in. We did have a couple transitions in personnel where we were down drivers during certain times, so that made it a little more difficult. And we also have to allow for the drivers to take vacation.
Yeah.
So that, again, leaves
So
us
some of
limited.
it's on them if they didn't get to you in time, so. you know,
Yeah.
How do you think that compares to, like Ellington, where they can't take them all the time, just to get a perspective of that? It seems like a lot,
It
but I
does.
don't know if, again, it's that they didn't.
I think the number is higher this year because of our personnel lapse, where we had a retirement and then we had a vacancy as a part-time driver, which is still vacant.
Okay.
So some of that number is higher because of those
Okay.
things.
What do they do when, you don't provide the ride?
So we try and find them alternative resources. So for example, if you are on Husky Medical, you can take a VAO driver, which is basically a Medicab. A lot of times we try and get them to have their family or friends take them. And sometimes we just have to ask them to reschedule and give them 3 or 4 options as to when they can reschedule.
You'll actually reach out and try to find an alternative for them, is that it? That's good.
Yeah.
On page 2, line 2, salary part-time, it's gone from $33,001 to roughly $51,000, $17,500 increase.
It's for the additional part-time requests that I put in.
Additional part-time driver.
Yes.
And that's 17,000 of it. The 466 is the 2% part-time raise.
Say it again, please.
The 17,000 is the new driver.
Yep.
The 466 is the part-time raise, tied to the 33,000 that's already there.
That'll bring you to how many part-time drivers?
2 full-time, 2 part-time.
So total, you'll have a total of 3 drivers.
Yes.
And, well,
No.
is that true, or the part-timers split 50/50?
19 hours.
19 hours a week,
And the full-time drivers are 40 or 35?
35.
How many vans are there?
4.
There are 4.
We just received our new one this year,
Okay.
and so we have the potential to take one off the road, but right now we're reusing all 4. While maintenance is being done, we're rotating them through.
And Melissa, you said you had how many drivers again?
Currently, 2 full-time drivers and 1 part-time.
So, they work full-time, they work
35 hours a week.
okay.
And the part-timers are 19.
Yes.
Okay. Not a big number, but a big increase. Supplies and equipment, what doubled it?
So within myself taking over this department, I've noticed there was a lack of supplies on first aid equipment, cleaning supplies, and just proper budgeting for everything. So I tried to realign so it was a more realistic budget instead of just putting it into a different category and putting it into the category that it actually belonged in.
So is there a comparable decrease somewhere else? Is that like professional services or something?
So I did take money out of professional services, $600 out of that, because I don't have to have as many certifications as the previous person had.
In your breakout, when you talk about supplies and equipment, one of the things you're adding is first aid supplies for buses. first of all, it's alarming. Do we have those currently? Are we replacing them? Or is that?
Minimum.
Okay.
So they're not really equipped with proper spill kits for bodily fluid incidents. They had never been put through a hazmat and bloodborne pathogens class. So I had Kerma come and I had the entire staff trained in that.
Yep.
So now we need to purchase the equipment that goes along with that.
And are those, in addition from human decency issues, are those liability issues or mandates or?
Yeah, there would be full kits that you can purchase instead of us building them on our own.
No, I'm saying, is the driving force just we should have them because we should have them, or is there some other?
Oh, of course, there's always a liability of not having first aid supplies readily available.
Can we buy some this year with the money we still have in our accounts now? Or is it all spoken for?
It's closed.
Okay. I just
We
thinking it would
have-
stagger if we
I
did some
did-
this year.
I did
And some
purchase
next year?
some at the beginning
Okay.
of the year.
Okay.
They didn't have like glove holders in the dining room.
Okay.
So I purchased some of those. I purchased some gloves to go in the dining room.
Okay.
So just stuff like that that just wasn't thought of before. I've been working closely with Kermit to do a risk assessment of the building and going through all of that step by step with him.
How broad is the inventory of medical supplies? What kind of medical supplies do you plan to
It's
inventory?
just like first aid kit supplies on all the buses, as well as in the office and in the general eating area. We've had a few medical instances where we need to put gloves on right away before the medical staff could get there, and they weren't readily available before, but they are now.
Mhm. Okay, that's certainly a good idea.
Moving on to the second page. The entertainers prices went up. Who are the entertainers?
So once a month, we do a monthly birthday social where we celebrate that month's birthday, and we always have an entertainer at that. It would be a band or a singer or a magician or a comic. And so we go to an entertainment showcase every year where basically all of these entertainment acts get together and they perform for you, and then we book them off of that. So it's the entertainment for that monthly social.
So how much they charge?
Some $150, some $300. It really depends on what it is, who it is. We try and bring back people that the seniors ask for, and some of them are going up on their fees.
How many people attend the social?
So the monthly social is our biggest event that we have. Sometimes we get 80 people. It depends on the weather. Obviously, right now is lower, so we're averaging about 50.
An afternoon event or an evening event?
It's an afternoon event, so we do like appetizers and lunch provided by CRT, and then have an entertainer come, and we sing happy birthday to the seniors and do birthday pins, and
Mhm.
it's quite fun to celebrate them in their 90s.
Was this in last year? And how much was the spend last year?
In the programs, we spent $44.74.
Does it show?
And so far, we've spent through December $2,525 this year.
Oh,
And before that, it was $6,500 and $7,900. So apparently, at some point, we cut it.
but it's, here it's broken out, programs and entertainers, so it's 6,000.
Right, but we spent $6,500 in that same line.
Oh, you have one, both of them in one line?
Yes, it is both in one line. If you look on the front page, the program line is going from $4,500 to $6,600.
Okay.
So that's one line. So if you looked on here, you would see that same one line with the 3 years of history.
I understand.
I believe last year I spent about $2,500.
I also think if you go back far enough, that was like a $10,000 or $12,000 line.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this one went from $7,900 to $6,500, so we took a cut there. And then at some point, we went to $4,500. So that was the next cut, and that's the budget we're at right now. So it looks like it's had a couple cuts just in the last couple of years.
Yeah, okay.
We're trying to encourage as many seniors to come and participate within the center, so trying to do more in-house programming just requires funding to do that.
Right.
Are we through with senior center?
All set, maybe.
Okay, so let's move on to.
Park and Rec is the very next page. You flip that page, very next one should be Park and Rec, 710200.
Under the accomplishments, the last line, where you teamed up with the Department of Public Works, to install security cameras and so forth at the parks. I don't recall that being in the budget last year.
It was a one-time CIP purchase, I think 4 years ago now.
So it wouldn't have been in the operating budget, it was part of CIP.
It was a CIP approved project,
4 years ago,
at least.
but it was never purchased.
It was purchased and they're installed, and we use them.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it takes time. CIP doesn't have to get spent this year. CIP can roll over.
Yeah, it doesn't lapse.
CIP doesn't go away. Like general fund,
Yeah.
you don't want things like CIP. You don't want a $25,000 camera system in an operating budget, because if you don't spend it within that 12 months, it goes away. Where if it's in a CIP, it could still be there. If it didn't get done this year because you needed to design something or fix something else, then you could do it next year instead, and the money doesn't go away.
We had trenching issues, so it delayed the project. It was more expensive to trench than we anticipated, so we ended up having to rent a trencher instead of having a contractor do it.
Is that a big issue at the park? Vandalism?
Ironically, before we installed the cameras, yes, we've seen a decrease since the cameras have gone up.
And the cameras have made a difference?
We think so, yes.
Who monitors the cameras?
My staff.
But like after hours, then what
So
happens?
we log in the next day, kind of look through it. It's more of a, if something happened,
It's like having a nest on your house.
right.
And it stores information for 24 hours? Or do you have to erase it?
No, it automatically
It
calls off.
recycles every 24 hours?
72 hours. 72 hours.
72 hours.
Which gives you time to check out something that happened over the weekend or
Right,
Monday.
right, which is part of the reason we asked for that package that we did get, so that we could do that.
Was the vandalism that did occur years ago, was it costly?
It occasionally was, it depended on the severity of it.
One
We
year, I
had a
think I
lot of
remember
fires.
that pavilion being damaged.
Yep, we had a lot of fires. One time when we had men's softball, our gatehouse was driven through. So it really depended on the situation. We're having more events in the park, so it's, I think, also contributing to the lower vandalism because there's people there more often.
Park stays open, what, how long? What are the hours for the park? being open?
It's, well, dawn to dusk, but our swimming hours are 11 to 6.
11 to 6.
Yeah.
Do you have the attendance at the park for the past 3 years? Is it up, down, flat? These ones are residents pay to go in, right?
$2 per person per day,
Yeah, and the non-residents pay a different rate?
$5.
Okay. Do you have the numbers by resident, non-resident?
Pay to learn how to swim?
I'm sorry?
Do you have to pay to take swimming lessons?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You do?
But that's part of the special revenue
That's it.
fund.
Right.
The expenses for the lifeguards come out of one, and the teachers come out of where they're paying. So when they pay for programs, the costs associated with them get paid out of special revenue fund, which we don't budget for special revenue funds here,
Right.
but they are accounted for all separately.
Don't have any numbers. I'm sorry.
If a kid wanted to go there and learn how to swim, what's it cost them?
How much does a swim lesson cost?
So much each lesson?
Yes, so that's a 10-class lesson, and I think last year was $50 for the session. So they pay that to take it.
$5 a shot.
Right. And then they get American Red Cross cards, so we pay the American Red Cross to get that certification. So, I have that information for you, but I must have left it out of my booklet, but I will email it to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely.
What's driving the change in seasonal employees that you're requesting?
So, per Amy's request, going through the 3-year plan, we did find that we were over budgeting for part-time salaries, so we felt that we could take some of that funding out and give it back.
Have you typically, so it says here that in the current fiscal year, you had budgeted for 32 seasonal employees. You're going to 20. Have you typically brought on 32 seasonal employees?
We have, we've now taken away the maintainers, that they went to Public Works. And then also, we only have one person working in the snack bar now.
Where previously it was 2.
Right. And then we definitely have a shortage of lifeguards, so we are trying to get that number up.
And the seasonal employees do what? Are they're lifeguards?
Some are lifeguards, some are snack bar gatehouse attendants.
Some teach swim lessons.
The lifeguards teach.
So we have 2 WSIs, water safety instructors on staff. They also lifeguard, so they get paid a different rate when they teach lessons.
And last year, as a supplementary appropriation, we approved a splash pad. Is that going to, that has not been built yet?
It's not been built.
Planned for this coming year, is it, or to be built?
We hope so. We've had some issues in placement and trying to fit it in where we originally had thought. So we're trying to come up with a different kind of schematic in putting the splash pad in.
Is that going to require someone to specially manage it that's going to increase
No,
the amount of manpower?
there's no lifeguards that are required for a splash pad.
It's an ADA accessible.
Yeah.
I don't know much about splash pads, except what I see on TV. But it seems like there are a lot of young kids that are running around getting wet and getting cooled off and so on. But it also looks like there is some risk of kids falling down and getting hurt and so on. And I wondered whether it was going to require someone on your staff to make sure that doesn't happen. Bigger kids knocking little kids down,
Sure.
as an example.
Sure, I mean, it's no different than our basketball courts that are not supervised. It's an anti-slip material underneath as a surface.
On a splash pad?
On a splash pad. So other towns don't. They may have like a monitor within the park, which we have
But no one
staff,
manages that,
but nobody
specifically
really
when it's being
sitting-
operated?
No.
And that would operate all day long, or would it operate over a specific period of time?
So it would be on a timer so that it would only operate during certain hours.
Certain number of minutes an hour,
Yes.
or a certain number of
Yep.
hours per day?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, not that this is happening tomorrow or whatever, but we should probably look at, maybe from the town attorney, as to any signage that needs to be put up, that you're there at your own risk kind of thing, which I see in different places that, I don't know whether or not, you never get out of the liability, somebody's going to sue you, but the point is, if you have that signage.
So we are
Yes.
planning on putting up a rule sign, which would have that written on it.
But I think we should get something from the town attorney about that. What would,
Okay, I'll ask.
what would, it's something just pretty standard, but,
We
Just
have-
wanna make sure
We
we're
have
covered.
rules posted at all of our other parks. It would just
Probably that's sufficient,
mimic-
but I'll check
mimic
into it.
that.
Yeah.
And you'd hope at some point parents are taking a little bit of responsibility and watching their own children.
yeah, right.
You have 13 camp counselors. What do they do?
They run a summer camp program, and they're paid out of the funds that we receive from the parents.
The people pay in.
Yes.
So that doesn't come out of your budget?
No,
it comes
that's
out
why
of
I broke them out.
Comes out of revenue?
Yes.
Comes out of the special revenue fund.
Special
Yeah.
revenue fund.
Okay. And how many camps do you run? What?
So that's our one full-time camp that we run for 9 weeks during the summer,
Okay.
and the hours are
On a daily basis?
7:30 to 5.
Every day,
Every
5
day.
days a week?
5 days a week, with the exception of July 4th.
Mhm. And if you sign up for it, your child can participate for that entire period of time, or is it?
It's 9 one-week segments, and
Oh, okay.
they can sign up for as many as they would like, or
But
as they need.
a camp is 1 week.
So it's a 9-week program, and they
But
can
with-
sign up for
1 week sessions.
1-week sessions, yes. It allows them to go on vacation and not have to pay.
Mhm.
They do have to make a deposit, which is $10 to reserve their spot,
Mhm.
and if they don't tell us in advance that their child is not going, they don't get the $10 back.
Mhm. And professional services, it's no big deal. What is that? That you're, in your department expenses, the first line?
So those are our propane, our irrigation system, drinking water testing, which is state mandated, fence repairs that we have in the different parks. It's basically to pay the contractors that we have come out when DPW can't help us with certain projects.
What's the lake management contract?
So a few years ago, we hired a lake management company called Solitude Lake Management to help us get the water and the algae under control. We were having part-time maintenance kids spend 8 hours a day raking the algae because we were having so high in nitrates that the algae just kept growing and growing and growing.
Mhm.
So we received a permit with the Solitude Lake Management Company and DEP for copper sulfate application, and we've been doing it now for 4 years. This is our 4th year. And
The copper sulfate is pretty good, it kills the algae pretty fast.
we don't have any more algae.
Yeah,
so-
I was going to say, it sinks to the bottom in a big hurry.
Yeah.
You can swim in it immediately after you do that?
24 hours, so
24
we
hours.
ask them to come and do the application, and we're not.
On a weekend? Oh, well, not a weekend.
No.
That's your
Right
busy
when we
time.
close, so we ask them to come in the evening. Sometimes we do close a little earlier so that we can help accommodate their schedule.
Mhm. Okay.
But that's posted, they post when they come, and then it's 24 hours.
Mhm. So during that period, the park swimming facility must be closed,
Right.
but you have the rest of the park open?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And the mowing and maintenance is all done by the
Public Works.
Public Works? How many acres do you maintain in that facility, including the baseball diamond and so on?
So I believe it's a little over 12.
Biggest expense is water
Yes.
control.
The line item for propane, $1,500, it seems like a lot. It's like 600 gallons. We use it just for the snack bar, right?
Just for the snack bar.
It seems like, what was the spend last year, you know?
I would have to go back and
Yeah.
check. I don't know off the top of my head.
It seems like a lot, 600 gallons to just do that.
It's operating 7 days a week for 12 to 15 weeks. So I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, but it seems like a lot.
It heats your hot water also? Or no, is it just cooking?
I would have to ask Public Works. I don't. I'm assuming it does.
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm assuming it does.
Thinking it might be bathroom hot water too. The snack bar's on one side, the bathrooms are on the other? Of the same building?
No,
Yeah.
just 600 gallons is a lot to cook with for the season. I don't know, I'm going to go into this one.
I'm sorry?
I want to go back over to the one I asked last year. The fertilizer,
Yes, sir.
the 4,000. Are we buying that in town now?
We are not. We asked for a quote from them on 3 occasions, and we were not provided one.
Really? Send Mr. Simon down. I'd just like to buy stuff from people in town, you know, that they're paying taxes, and, you know, not to give any ultra special consideration because it's more expensive, but, you know, normally they're the least expensive.
When the budget was due, it was right around the holiday season, and we were told that the person that does the quotes was on vacation, and no one else could give us a quote.
Huh. Okay. I'll talk to Bill.
Okay, are we, let me know when we're ready to wrap up here. Okay?
Okay. I'm going to ask just one thing. Think about. If anywhere in all 3 of the enterprises, where do you think you could reduce some expense?
The Park and Rec has a decrease already coming to you today.
Senior center was a 0.5% increase,
Senior
right?
center is a 0.5% increase.
Well, we're not doing this against what actually is, right?
What do you mean?
All these are all decreases against what?
Current budget.
Huh?
They're decreases to the current budget,
To the adjusted or the adopted?
to the adopted. I got told it had to be the adopted, that I could not use anything other than the adopted budget that was adopted last May.
Okay,
So that's what's in here.
okay.
Not that there's been a whole lot of budget changes. The
Yeah.
14,000 is not in here for the YSB, for the coordinator, because that was an additional appropriation.
Yeah,
And the only other change we've made is the one change for assessor for their mileage for $350. Those are the only 2 changes that have happened this year that relate to this budget.
okay.
We've done no other budget adjustments.
I understand your numbers, but the question still remains the same. You don't have to answer it now. But, you know, I'm listening to what the state is proposing about shifting, you know, a percentage of the teachers' pensions back to the towns. You know, we got to look at everything moving forward, and without exception. So if you could think about that, and I understand your numbers, okay. So to see if there's somewhere that there's some place to save some money, thinking about the future here.
Sure.
I've asked to get this.
So your increase is just a little over 0.5%.
For my senior center budget, yes.
Well, I'm looking at,
Oh, overall, yes. So are you doing all 3 departments together?
well, I'm looking at Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec is 5.56%.
5-6% change.
For Parks and Rec. Yeah,
Is that right? Not, a little over 0.5% increase there?
Yeah, it's 0.56.
and seniors are up at 8.4%.
For the additional personnel.
Yeah, because that has the new
For
person in it.
additional personnel.
Yes, yes, right. And human services is up 37.5%.
And that has the 2 new positions in it. Both the YSB coordinator and the clerical staff. That one's a little deceiving because it does have all that grant money associated
Yep.
with it. That's not here because that's not an expense, unfortunately. So there will be offsetting revenue for that.
And what would be the percent increase taking that grant money out? Something probably like about 25%.
Well, it would be taking $28,000 out, because it would be the 28 of the, so of the 46. So my guess would be closer to 17,
Okay.
because you're taking 28 of the 46 away.
Thank you, Melissa. You do a good job.
Okay, thank you. accumulate.
So you'll see, this is not East Windsor's. I pirated it.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the item 11C. Discussion of 5-year plan.
Bob, can I
Sure.
kick that off?
Okay.
And I wanted to ask to have that added to the agenda for tonight. And I think, you know, the town has been a little lax in not having a longer-term plan than budget to budget. And I asked Bob to put it on there because I do think we, at this time, should begin to develop a 5-year plan that would encompass a number of things that I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about tonight. But initially, the 5-year plan, we need to start this, and I believe we need to start this with the Board of Selectmen members to have a think tank meeting to talk about that, what that comprises of, what are the best avenues to go at, and the Board of Selectmen members should be but really being the major role here in terms of what direction we're going to go. At some point, I would expect we would have some other people join us that would be subject matter experts in different areas, from public works to whatever, but at least for now, we need to have ourselves included to do this and get something started, because it won't happen in an hour. And we've got a little time to do it, and I'm looking at, over the next 6 months, what is it that we can do? And I know, Amy, you've got experience.
You have a template, well, you have a template right in front of you that actually tells you really what you need to do. Because what it basically does is takes the town side and breaks it down between salaries, benefits, purchase services, utilities, maintenance and repairs, other, and a total budget, and a CIP budget tied to that. And then the next one is Board of Ed, those same categories. Board of Finance, what accounts they have, where we think our revenue's coming from, and it drives down to whether we're using fund balance or not, what our grand list is, what our assumed grand list growth is, or flat, what our mill rate is, and then it comes up with an annual increase or decrease for an average, and then it gives you what's your undesignated fund balance, the percent of reserves, debt service, taxes, to the average assessed value, and the tax increase, and it goes across, and this one's actually 15 years. This is actually what the S&P asked us to do when we were going through our rating meeting for the bond issue.
Right.
Now, the debt was issued a couple years ago, tied to the middle school roof, but it was never bonded.
Yeah.
I bonded it in the fall.
Okay.
And they had said, you guys need both long-range capital planning,
Yeah.
which should be at least 5 years, and long-range operating. So, but that's what this does, and this is already all formula. All I need to do is populate it, and we need to come up with what our assumptions are. The third column in is growth rate. What do you think your salaries are going to grow? What do you think your benefits are going to grow? That's where people who can look at trends or stuff. So this actually has 2 years of actual and 15 years going forward on this one.
I understand. This is a financial plan.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm thinking first, we need to understand where we want to invest in what areas over the next 5 years. And then this will come into play with this.
I was going to say, you almost need this first,
Well,
because you have to know what the situation is. If you put in a 7% trend on your benefits, you're going to see that your benefits are going to be 50% of your budget 10 years out.
I understand that, but we need to understand ourselves.
So you guys are looking for goals for yourself? So that's not really this kind of planning.
No.
It's effectively the plan of conservation and development, which we've had since forever. We don't read it though.
Well-
I've never seen anything. Okay, I understand the financial planning. I've been involved in
Well,
things like
we do
this.
none here,
Yeah, I know.
other than what we're doing sitting right there for the budget for
I
next year is it.
understand. I understand.
How about grand list growth? Is that on the sheet?
Yep.
Where's that?
Down on the bottom.
Assessed value?
Nope, go above that, where you go to the transfers, amount required from property taxes, net grand list, and then the collectible grand list.
How
So
do
you
you
have both of them.
How do you project grand list growth when you don't know economic development or market trends?
Well, there's usually a trend. You can see over a period of time, if you laid out 10 years of grand list, you would be able to see pretty much a trend. And there will be growth spurts where we go through a lot of growth, but those aren't what you're going to budget on. You're going to budget on every year you know you go up 0.5% or a percent, or you're gonna know some number. In Canton's case, it happened to be 0.6. There were years that we went up 10% when a big development went in, like the shops, but that's different, and that's not what you want to plan on. Those are nice to haves when they come. They're not what you should be planning on. Yeah,
But this is all done, Amy, by formula, right?
Yes.
You have some formula.
yep,
And I think what Charlie is asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, is to look at this, which I think is a beginning, but to look at what we might do to try to tailor this to the town of East Windsor.
Oh, yeah, there's-
Because this is some formula that's used
well, this
across
actually,
the state of Connecticut.
I think it was actually Granby's originally, or maybe Suffield's, or maybe some combination of the two of them. So, other towns are using this.
Yeah,
So, no, he's looking for, where do we want to be? Like, how much commercial property we want to do versus how much residential, I'm thinking is what you're talking about, versus,
That's
like,
one
what's going on
component.
in the town versus
One
what the
component
numbers
of
mean.
it. It's one component of it.
Yeah.
You know, what areas can we increase our revenues? We know where the expenses are going to be.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, a good place we're going to start from. But we need to talk about, as a board, what is the focus?
Yeah, and I think.
We don't have
You guys don't have goals? You don't have goals for your board, like, that are set up? When a new set get voted in at the beginning of your 2 years, you guys don't sit down
We
and
did
come up
that.
with goals?
We did that.
And
yeah.
does anybody review them and look at them, see if you're getting there?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
But we need something more aligned to where there's some dedication put into it, rather than, okay, let's stop the opioid crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not planning, and that's where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
To really
And you don't
plan.
think the plan of conservation and development tell you where you should be going? Because Ruben, when he spoke to us in the budget meeting, said there are things, implemented things that were supposed to happen in the plan of conservation and development that haven't happened. So those are really going to be your goals.
That is the town's 10-year plan.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
So we do have that.
Well, we have it, but you know,
So maybe you guys need to pull it apart and look at it yourselves and figure out who wants to concentrate on what.
that's my point. We need to look at the different pieces to this.
Yeah.
Because we don't look at that.
Right, and I think Ruben would be a person to be involved in our
Probably.
discussions too.
So planning and zoning.
Well, eventually. But that, you're right.
Yeah.
We can pull them in too.
So yeah, I mean, I think we have tools that we just need to use what we have
That's
versus
right.
creating something all over again.
Don't disagree.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
That's it for me on that.
I guess the only further discussion is, how do we go about building, you know, the increment of the next 5 years? You know, what Amy has here, it runs out to 2032. That doesn't have much value, but if you look at almost everybody who's in business has a 3 to 5 year plan. And, you know, as a business here in town, the Board of Selectmen should have a 3 to 5 year plan, I think.
Well, and I think Charlie initially said we've got to sit down and start working on this.
Yeah.
And this was an opening discussion.
Because, you know, as an example, for a tailored plan, you know, although I agree with Amy, you can't look at spikes and say they're the average, but we do in fact hope in 3 years that there'll be a casino here in town, which will be pretty meaningful to our tax base. We believe that we're going to have a food processing facility here in a couple of years. That's going through the process right now of getting approved through, you know, the planning and zoning and wetlands. So that's another step in the right direction.
But all of those things are covered by the POCD. You guys need to look at the plan of conservation and development.
I have.
Have you? That encapsulates everything you're talking about.
It doesn't have Sardelli, for example.
It has that type of development in that particular section of town, absolutely it does.
Well, and we're doing,
Without
right
a doubt.
now,
What's that?
Without a value.
So are you trying, are you trying to quantify grand list growth, or are you trying to, the plan of conservation is the town's 10-year plan. It's required by law to be submitted to OPM every 10 years. Planning and zoning spends 2 years designing it. They put a lot of time and effort into it, and then effectively it sits on a shelf in terms of this board's involvement with it for 8 years until they start over again. So if you're talking about the type of development that you want to see, that's in there. If you want to talk about the actual numbers on the page for budget projections, I don't know how you get around the assumptions that you need to make. For example, as Charlie pointed out, the potential change in formulaic obligations that are being passed from the state to municipalities. How do you get there?
Well, if you look down here, you'll see the revenue in ours, we kept flat for the state revenue because we weren't counting on any changes. The numbers stayed the same, the same, the same, the same, the same. I mean, at one point we were projecting growth because we were seeing growth in state numbers. And then it dropped off and then it stayed flat. So we've got 5, 6, 7 years of just flat with no increase at all because we can't count on. So it's just an assumption that you then multiply out. So you could say nothing. You could say, or you could say a minus. You could say minus 5% or minus 10%. I mean, you could do anything you want. This one column of growth rate is really what drives all the rest of it. And you could just, you move the things around. The formulas are all written so that if you wanted to put benefits at 15%, you could see what that would do. If you wanted to put salaries at 0, you could see what that would do. So it gives you an overall picture. It's just a tool to say, if everything stays status quo and these are the percents we think, this is what it's going to look like 10 years from now or 15 years from now. That's all it's really meant to do, is give you a big picture. These are what could be going on here. It doesn't count for things like a casino coming in or a Sodeli coming in.
Yep.
It will eventually, because when those become the actual years, so 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and that's here, that's in that grand list. And then that's fed into that 0.5% increase of growth or, you know, or 1% increase of growth. It would be built into that number. So
just taking that line you have at 300K, you know, for other tax revenue, I would hope that with what we know today, we could tailor that for a next couple or 3 years into something more than that. Take the food processing facility by itself. That's going to make a change. Not right.
Well, this isn't tax revenue. This number up here is motor vehicle sup that comes out once a year. It's interest in liens, it's prior year taxes. And if you look at our budget numbers for this year, they're much lower because there's really nothing left. We've tax sailed a bunch of the sales. The other ones are in litigation. So there's really, if you looked at how much we can collect right now in taxes, there's not a lot. So you'll see your prior numbers for the budget next year are very low. Your interest in liens for the budget next year are very low.
Where would I then find the revenue from taxes?
Down on the very bottom. It backs, this one's done so it actually backs into how much you need to have. So you figure out how much you have for expenses and then it figures out amount required from property taxes. It's just below where the fund balance is.
Yep.
Before the net grand list. So that tells you how much you would have to collect in property tax revenues to support the budget assumptions that you've assumed above. Including other revenue, including all the expenditures, capital operating.
Yeah, okay.
So it backs into it in this one.
Yes.
There's a couple different versions that all kind of work the same way, but they all get you to the same thing.
And I say that for the near term, you know, 3 years or so, there is some intelligence we could add to that.
Most
that
certainly.
would make it better.
Yep, and you could take this
and the out
15
years,
and
you're
only
absolutely
concentrate on the first 5. I mean, it's not like, once you set the 15 up, which hasn't been done at all here, once you set that up, you could do any pieces. If you look at the top of this one, it actually says 21-22 fire station for $5 million. So this is a Canton projection. If we go and put a fire station in Canton in 21-22, what's it going to do? And you'll see it in the debt, you'll see it in the operating cost. So this is used, there's a base one, and then any scenario you want to put in there gets put in there, and you just label them in the tab what it's for, and then it pops up on the top of your sheet for you. So you know that this one was just designed for a $5 million fire station.
And that's what I would like to do,
Yep.
is to make those adjustments as smart as we are,
Yeah.
you know, to do the best we can.
Yep, and
with it
that's
and look
perfectly
out
acceptable.
3 to 5 years.
Yep.
With more intelligence than the formula can give us.
Yep, which is fine, and you can do the formulas from the 5-year on.
And we might be
As
wrong.
some kind of
And we might
guess,
be wrong. And
so-
every year, hopefully, the board will go back and take a look and say,
Did we
weren't
make it or did we
We
not?
weren't so smart, we should do this.
I mean, when I got here, everybody thought the casino would be here. I've been here almost a year now, and it's not even on the radar
No
yet.
closure.
So, you know, people can assume whatever they want.
Yeah,
Doesn't
no,
mean it's gonna happen.
This
But
thing,
there are people who will take an assumption and assume that it is fact,
Yeah.
and then build their next assumptions on the previously assumed fact.
And somebody asked me that about the casino. It is not in our 20 budget at all. Because until I hear it's coming, I am not willing to put it in a budget and assume that the money is coming in and the expenditures tied to it are being spent.
That's certainly the right thing to do.
So that stuff is good for planning, and those are all great conversations and great ideas, but I think we need to start with a base plan to get ourselves even started in that direction, considering there's nothing here at all now.
That's right, in the basement, you know, the numbers aren't gonna drive themselves.
Right. Oh, no,
And
I
so
think the
that's
plan of
why-
conservation,
So
I
that's why we
mean,
need to look at.
Ruben clearly
all the
said,
components
we
of
need
it.
implementation of all that stuff. We have what needs to happen, and no one's taken the initiative to get any of that stuff implemented yet.
Well, that's true,
So-
but we're also doing a study in Warehouse Point right now. And that's more information, updated information, so we wouldn't just rely on the POCD, we'd have to enhance the POCD with that knowledge we learn about from the village center development and stormwater management, so that's new information that we
Yep.
add in there too.
That's why I wanted it on the agenda tonight. We need
Okay.
to have a start point,
Yep.
okay? And, you know, the next meeting, you know, we need to have a separate special meeting, you know, moving forward at periodic points to get our arms around this thing and see how this will fit to what it is that we think our directions are today.
That's a
Well,
good,
my
that's a good
opinion.
start.
Okay.
my opinion of this, okay? This is nothing but a wish list, it's a guess. You can make this thing look as nice as you want or as bad as you want. I mean, this is all guesswork here.
Yep.
We can't say
That's what planning
that
is,
somebody's
though.
gonna come into this town every year and give us tax dollars. This, you know what, to be honest with you, this to me right here means nothing. When the guy comes and builds this $25 million complex, that starts to mean something,
Yeah.
you know? Then you can start planning.
Yeah, but the problem
Meanwhile,
is,
this is a guess.
yeah, and it is a guess, but that's what planning is. Planning is your best guess of what's gonna happen year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up to
And
15.
you could take this, and you can make it flat if you want. Then you could say, well, what if in this year, you know, was it 2021, what if we do get a $25 million thing? Then what will it look like, and what if we don't? So it helps you guess.
Yeah, it helps us guess, right?
You know, I think if we try to add intelligence for 3 years or so, we might be fairly good. The last 2 years of a 5-year plan are a bunch of guesses.
Yeah,
And they're guesses and goals.
Yeah.
And goals.
yeah. It helps you
The fact that you
understand.
throw out there a $10 million new commercial venture here in town, doesn't mean it's gonna happen in the 4th year, but at least there's something out there that says we should be looking for that kind of thing to make this happen.
Yeah.
And in Amy's formula is as good as anything when you get out beyond, anything beyond 5 years. It's just numbers.
And it is something they encourage towns to have, that you should be looking long-term, not just worrying about today. When we're borrowing 20 years out. I mean, we need to know how those are being paid
We
back.
cannot force companies to come to our town.
No, and that's why I said, if you looked at this, you would never see huge grand list, you would never see a casino, you would never see that Sardelli plant. I mean, those things would not be in this. Those would be nice to have when they show up.
Should the Sardelli plant be in there?
No,
not right now.
When they actually purchase the land, maybe.
Yeah, but we're a lot closer to that, on that than we are in a casino today.
Absolutely.
You know, so should we consider, as an example,
You could, maybe
with
a
this-
couple years out,
with a smarter plan, should we
Right.
consider a Sardelli plant?
You could.
Should we consider,
but I wouldn't spend the money. I would not build my budget.
Oh, no.
I would not build my budget
No, that-
assuming something's coming.
You know, the budget is.
Like you said, tomorrow something could happen and that company
And it-
could not come.
And it could. And I wouldn't propose the budget to that, okay? But it is in fact a useful tool.
Yes.
To know where you're trying to go.
Stand here, sit here, and if they come, they come, you know?
No, there's great things that could be done. EDC could be doing a whole lot of stuff, planning could be doing a whole lot of stuff tied to it.
When the state came here, I'm trying to think what that group was, to show us the multi-year, no, the multi-year plan for the Route 5 corridor. What do they have on there? They had businesses, they had things that were,
Yeah.
you know, projections in order to, you know, fortify what they want to do with Route 5. And that's what I think part of this planning is in the 5-year plan. Where do we see, you know, the investment in part of the town to have growth that would ultimately be revenue growth, because it's a spend factor. And that's why I think we need to get together to do that, to see how can we plug into some of this stuff. You can't just wait for a realtor to roll in.
The Route 5 study and they came to us and said,
Yeah.
what do you want to see? And they gave us some examples,
Yeah.
like a straw man. And then we said, no, we don't want walking in this area. We want commercial stuff. We don't need Dunkin' Donuts. And so they changed some of their ideas, their plans. And that's
But what are they doing with it? Is that something
Well, they're doing
the
it for us.
EDC does?
This Route 5 study, the state gave us a $250,000 grant just to study Route 5 in our town.
So kind of like what we're doing in Warehouse Point now?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Like although this is more traffic, but they had to figure, well, what's to figure in the future how to build the road to accommodate the type of businesses you want to develop there. And so they were looking, they don't just build a road, they plan into the future too, to see what kind of facilities they need. So that's another thing we put in there.
Okay.
Okay, you want to call it, save this discussion for
Yep.
later?
Till we get another special meeting.
Okay,
Thanks, Amy.
No problem.
yeah, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to approve the minutes. I move to approve the special meeting minutes from February 4th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll go to the regular meeting minutes of February 7th, 2019. And there is a change I'd like to make. On page 8, a motion was made for the 250th anniversary. And what the minutes say is to approve the dispensation of the 250th anniversary fund as recommended by the committee. And looked at the tape, and it means not dispensation, it's disposition. So if we change that one word, that would be good. Any other changes?
No.
Okay. I move we approve the regular meeting minutes of February 7th as amended with that change.
Second.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Communication. Is there any communication? I don't have any.
Bob, are we up to date on meeting minutes in terms of approving them? There have been a couple of emails I've seen where folks have noted that we are not.
I think we're missing a couple of budget workshops. Are they all submitted? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if if we approve them. I think we're,
You do not have the 5th in your packet?
okay. February 5th is not there.
Are we up? I thought there was one from December that was missing. I did not confirm that, but that's, I thought that I'd seen that.
No, we're up to date as far until, well, February 5th. We're a budget workshop.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no communications, move on to public participation. Paul?
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Brunswick. I noticed that Boniaski is stepping down from the Charter Revision Commission. I don't know the background behind that, but my speculation is possibly the lack of funding. I know it's an uncomfortable situation, and if that's her basis for stepping down, the town should be ashamed of itself.
Well, I have her resignation letter that I'll read. It doesn't-
Okay, well, I don't get to say that then, this is not.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay, so this is my opportunity, and that's my feeling on the subject, because I think the whole situation with the lack of funding for a recording secretary was ridiculous from top to bottom. And everybody who was involved, I know you guys did the best you could, but I'm very disappointed in the Board of Finance. I think that was a total mistake. You can't have 30 meetings. I'm sorry, you can't have
24.
24 meetings at $125 a meeting and $1,500. It can't be done. It's silly, it's simple math, and there's no excuse. And I don't care politically whether anybody thinks these people are wonderful or horrible. It has nothing to do with it. This is an obligation of the town to have this commission to do their task. And if they don't like the members, that's too bad, because the members were selected here. And that's the way it works, and that's the legal way to do it, and it doesn't make any difference. You have to fund what your obligations are. And that, I don't know if that's the case, but I'll tell you what, there's some unhappy people all the way around, in the town and on that commission. The whole thing is a travesty when it comes to that. Total nonsense. I appreciate what you guys did to try to fix it, but that should never have been necessary. So that's what I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public participation. Bob?
Bob Black, 80 Rice Street in East Windsor. I'm going to wear my economic development hat tonight, even though I've got my veterans hat on, and say that here, I totally believe 110% what Paul has said. Brevity's not my strong point, but we've got an opportunity this year, beginning with tonight, to settle what's wrong with our form of government. And it should have started a long time ago with a 3 or 5 year business plan. Includes financials, includes operational, includes development, and includes what we already have that's not being reviewed, the COPD. You know, we've got some real good government volunteers. We've got a Charter Revision Commission, regardless of its composition or how it was appointed. They can't even fund the secretary because we've got a hang up with the Board of Finance. We got a Board of Finance doing a great job in many, many areas, a lot of the time, all volunteers, not paid. We've got one person in this town that presented the budget today and this evening that has 3, and if you really look into it, 4 jobs they're doing, getting paid for a person doing 1 job. We've got a Board of Selectmen, with the exception of the first selectman, who's already indicated they're not going to run for office again, serve for 0 compensation. You've got great ideas for 2 years, whether the campaign promises or whether they come out of after serving for 1.5 years like, let's have a 5-year plan. Who is going to take charge of that plan? Who's going to implement it? The same thing with the planning and zoning, the same thing with the EDC. Volunteer jobs. I've said it, I don't know how many times, the only way you can balance a budget is to increase revenue or decrease expenses and costs. And we got a lot of fixed costs. And there are even going to be more this year when the state comes up with less assistance to the towns. What's the answer? Well, I hate to be, and I put it in writing to the co-chairman of the Charter Study Revision Committee, Revision Commission, I should say. It's real simple. We make the charter revision simple. We have continuity by bringing in a chief administrative officer with a job description that is precise, that has certain qualifications, such as a master's degree in municipal finance or management. And you have the balance of power by keeping the Board of Selectmen. And they're really the Board of Directors of the town, with the first selectman being the chairman of the board. They hire and fire that person, okay? They make sure that the annual performance evaluations are done, not only in that job as it's created, but in all the other departments, because, you know, it takes a good human resources officer to hire somebody and to do a great interview, but it takes a good human resources officer at the head of the departments to do job evaluations. They can help the person that has to present their budget from all the different departments at one time. And last but not least, the one thing that we would not want to do, I believe, is to take away the balance in the form of government by going to a town council and doing away with the town meeting. Keep the town meeting, hire a chief administrative officer, bring continuity, let them have a term other than just 2 years or 4 years as it be, and get the town going in the right direction and bring in some continuity. By the way, we have an Economic Development Commission meeting next Monday. We've been totally unable to get quorums to get things going, and yet we're going to have one this coming Monday, and one of the things that's on the agenda regardless of what the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance has done, we are committed. Andy's come to all of those meetings, so is Bob. I personally am going to speak for the other members when we have a quorum and say we are committed to getting funding for a full-time paid professional developer. That's how you increase revenues. We have a vacancy on that commission right now as an alternate. But we also have a vacancy on the Veterans Commission for an alternate.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, that's a full-time member that's vacant on the EDC.
On the EDC.
We have a very active member that's moved out of town. And we really need some help. And we're going to work on recruiting somebody to keep the impetus going there.
Bob, that's on Monday.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
here, and I'm not sure the time, I'd say 6, but I'm not sure.
He sold his farm.
Oh,
Pete,
No,
not Pete.
Nick Lascos.
Oh, yes, okay.
Marie?
Yeah, Marie, this is a 10-9 not to disrespect the previous 2 people that have spoken in regards to the funding for the secretary that was going to be here last month. Board of Finance has an obligation to stay within the budget that's been passed by the town. That committee was formed, and they did the survey that they need to stay within what was being spent. And if we're going to say that we want every department to have their budgets that's required, then I think we need to start with the Board of Ed too. We criticize the Board of Ed more times than not because they were overspent over things that they have no control over. We haven't funded $1,000 that we requested by the Brockbrook Library because we didn't have the money. And then our group was forewarned to be careful with what they were spending. And they've gone, the Board of Finance has done their due diligence, as they have with everybody else, regardless of who sits on any committee or any preconceived notion that it's political or it's not political. They have a role to play, and I think they're doing that role very well. I'm concerned with the last motion that was passed by this board, where we circumvented the Charter Revision Commission to fit their purpose. And I question whether or not that's even proper. I question the morale of that, and if that would have been allowed by another organization. Tonight, we sat here and we've asked the Park and Rec that put through their budget if she could kindly look at where she could cut it further than what she has. And then in the same breath, the individual that asked that question turned around and said, we should have an attorney take a look at whether or not signage is necessary. The response was that it's going to be included on the site. We should be talking to the insurance carrier whether or not there should be signage involved, not paying an attorney $300 an hour when a phone call to the insurance company will cost us $0. So those are things that the Board of Finance has to take a look at in its totality when expenses are being paid and do their due diligence. And I think for us to criticize the Board of Finance for doing their job is wrong. Thank you.
Okay. Kathy?
Kathy Spinelli, 71 Newport Street. I came and spoke at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting because I felt I had been misrepresented. And I feel like I've been misrepresented again in the minutes of the last meeting. I wasn't going to do this during public participation. I brought it to you and you gave it to Mr. Hoffman to look at. I asked that the meeting minutes be adjusted from February 4th to more accurately describe what I said at that meeting during public participation, and that was apparently my request was ignored. So I just want to make it clear that I was misquoted in the minutes. Sorry, Peg, I know it's difficult to get everything, and I'm not trying to lay that on you.
I'm supposed to get everything done.
That's right. But I feel like I was completely misquoted. Again, no issue with Peg, it happens. But the fact that I brought it to your attention and it wasn't rectified, I'm very disappointed.
I'd like to respond if I can. You did give it to me, and I appreciate that. I gave it to Andy, and he could have made a motion, but what I'll do, unfortunately, is that we do have the recording, and we'll go verbatim. We can get a verbatim transcription of what that video says, and that's what we'll do. So you're pointing out that you spoke and wasn't recorded correctly. I'll examine it and we'll change it. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also have one other request.
Sure.
Our superintendent is a bad weather day. She started her day at 4 a.m. If there's anything you can do to move us up a little bit, I would appreciate being able to let her go home.
I think she appreciates your suggestion too, and I don't see any reason why we can't. I move that we take item number 11A.
Aren't you going to finish public participation?
Yes.
Sorry. I hate to interrupt you, but I do have something to say.
All right. But I am going to interrupt, but we'll come back to it. I'm going to make this motion and then we'll come back if it's okay. All right, so I move we take item number 11A, discussion of Board of Education budget deficit, and move it to come after public participation. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you're there. Dick.
Dick Pippin, 27 Wall Road. I think we have a recorder. I think you ought to take what Mr. Lake said, and you should play it for everybody to hear. The priority of this whole charter revision, and the part that you guys get to review it, should be job number one. Get a town administrator while keeping a Board of Selectmen form of government and town meeting. And you guys should accept nothing less and should not put anything else to the voters. Your EDC coordinator could come second. But the first thing, the priority we need in this town is continuity in management, which unfortunately you don't have through no fault of your own. You really need to look at that seriously when you get this charter revision to review. And I wouldn't accept anything less if you really want to move the town ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public participation. Tom.
Tom Talini, 23. I think the last Board of Selectmen meeting you had Ruben here, and he was really pushing economic development. I think we should look at making sure that he can continue on that path. I think he's going to be a go-getter, and I think we should really do whatever the town can do to help him go down that path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, excuse me, Tom, can I ask a question? Are you saying to have Ruben, in effect, be our economic development professional?
Sounds like he's headed in that direction. It sounds like that's the direction he was trying to head in a little bit.
He was.
And if nothing else, to keep abreast of what comes into the town as permits, which I think is very important, because I know there's something pending right now for on Route 5, and I think they've tried to have 3 different meetings. And every meeting, the wetlands been canceled because of bad weather. I mean, I'd love to know where that stands, and no one knows.
Well,
I think
actually,
that's a good thing that he wants to implement that department at least knows where all these permits and where they are standing with who's reviewed them, who hasn't reviewed them. That to me is important, because people come to town, they want to put a building up, they get jerked around for 6 months, they're going somewhere else.
You're right.
I mean, look at the building in South Windsor, that Coke building, it's almost, they started putting walls up today. That's 3 months of construction? We can't get a building started in 3 months in this town. That's pitiful.
I'd like to make a comment. That's why Lowe's left the Leda farm
They
on
couldn't get
Main
through.
Street. It took too long.
I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, someone's got to track these things to know where everything is.
I think Ruben's on top of it, you're right.
I think it sounds like I mean, I've talked to him once or twice, and he sounds like he's
And
got
I
his
think
head on with that.
that wetlands is going to take place, I think, March 4th. And
Oh, it's going to be,
yeah.
they're going to try again.
They're going to try again.
For weather, for
Yeah,
God's sake.
and I think the person is comfortable with that, so.
Yeah, I don't think they realize, they don't think they're getting pulled around, but
Yeah.
it's just bad weather.
I agree. It sounds like Ruben has a bent for economic development, and that would be good. My concern is, and I'm no expert in this at all, after having talked to people in South Windsor and Windsor and Enfield, is that he may not understand the details of how we do it here in Connecticut. If what I heard is right, the people in South Windsor and Windsor, they claim they spent 40 additional days, if you will, schmoozing the right people in either evening or daytime activities to make sure that their towns were well known as being open for business. I'm not sure we ever even knew that the Coca-Cola facility, for example, in South Windsor, was ever going to happen. Now, I would just bet you, and I don't know this, that the people in Windsor knew that. I'll bet they knew it. I'm not sure they took a shot at it, but they knew it. And that's what bothers me. And if Ruben has a bent for that, good. But then I say, but he's the town planner. And what happens to that job?
That's why he's looking for an assistant. That's what he was in front of you guys for last time.
He's talked about that. And I don't know, I want
think
to talk to him.
I mean, let's not put blinders on when it comes to that. Let's think about everything you just said.
Yeah.
That it takes an additional 40 days for some of these towns to attract people. Don't put blinders on when we're doing the budget and say, gee, you know, they don't need it. Maybe we could take somebody part-time or something. Let's not put blinders on, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree 100%.
Okay. Yes, Bob?
Yeah, back to the economic development. I had said for years, and I, after owning a business in this town and sitting on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce for many years, have become sort of an expert in East Windsor economic development. And I'm telling you what I've said time and time again. Ruben's predecessor had 2 jobs, planner and developer. I've given hypothetical situations where it was almost a conflict of interest in having those 2 jobs with one person. I truly believe you're going to get what you pay for in the developer. And that's another one that have job description has to be carefully written, I mean, where you've got to have the different entities in town give input. Maybe you want to do a team hiring after you get the job description and the funding approved for that position, because it's got to be a professional, and it wouldn't hurt for him to have a little skin in the game in town.
Okay.
But I think those comments were good about, you know, things being in a bottleneck, and that I had, going back when I first got on, had handed out a copy of a progress report, and you recall that, and, you know, events that occur, what's the next event that's going to occur? Do you remember that? I gave it to you, I gave it to everybody. And if you like, I can sit down with Ruben and go through that with him, because I think it's important for this board to understand what projects are in there, what their status is, because I think if they are being delayed, then you need to get involved in that.
If they are,
You know,
I will get involved.
But we don't know. We
And
don't
that's
get
true.
a report about anything.
Well, okay, all right.
I'd like to say one thing.
Sure.
You know, our zoning board meets twice a month. The wetlands meets once a month. I think the wetlands commission should meet twice a month. Because that's where it starts. You know, if something goes sour, now the applicant's got to wait another whole month instead of a couple of weeks.
And the wetlands will have special meetings if it's something pressing. I think we can do that.
Well, that would be all right too, you know?
Yeah.
But we don't know where anything is.
Well,
We don't know the status of any project.
if you want to meet with Ruben, I think that's a great idea. We'll
Okay.
lay out all the projects. That's not a problem.
You know, and it might be able to work with Ruben if we had a very proactive Economic Development Commission. Right now, it's struggling to live. I have a young fellow who just retired from United Technologies, who's just moved into town, literally last week, who is plenty smart and might be ready. Charlie has in mind a young fellow who might help. If in fact Ruben has enough capability to do both jobs, if he were to use the Economic Development Commission with people who have time and have the energy and ability, it might work as a start. But I agree with Bob. You gotta have a professional doing that job who is sniffing out the jobs, or we're gonna have what Tom says, and that's nothing.
Okay. Can we end public participation? Okay, Chris, you're up.
So I don't know, we brought the information that was provided to the Board of Finance back in October, I believe, about the status of the Board of Ed budget at that time, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
sorry. Oh, that's right there. Good. Well, I actually kept one for myself
You
too.
did tonight?
I did, yeah. I gave away all my stuff to the Board of Finance last week. Okay. So unfortunately, this process is a little bit complicated because it's cumulative over years. So I'll do my best to try to explain it in a way that makes some sense, but I also have to be somewhat vague because I'm dealing with students and services, so I'm not going to talk about anything that could identify anybody. So unfortunately, some of that information will be a little bit vague, like we're not talking about any specific schools or anything like that. So, okay, so last fiscal year, last school year, so September of 2017 through June of 2018, There were a number of things that happened that affected our budget last year. One was that in January of 2018, there was a change in statute that required that we change how we provide alternative education for any students who are expelled. And we had a number of those students. So this is an example of what the cost impact could be. I'm giving it this way because the Board of Ed's vote is different potentially for every student. So I can't say every student that has a disciplinary hearing, the result is X or Y or Z. So there's a variation. But prior to January 1st, we provided 2 hours a day of tutoring for students. And generally the tutors we used were employees of the district. So they were making the hourly rate that was in the teacher's contract, which was about $33 an hour. So in general, we were paying about $70 a day for alternative education for students who were expelled.
So under the law, when you expel a student, you can develop an IEP for, I'm using the vernacular, I'm not sure that's correct, but an individual plan for each expelled student?
We have, now we do. Prior, we just had to provide, basically the language of the requirement was very vague. We had to provide alternative education. It could be a tutor for 2 hours a day. And then... but now you have some variance. We have to provide basically an equivalent to a regular school day. Mm-hmm. So, and we have to look at individual needs, and if it's a student with special education needs, we have to look at their special education services. So the alternative education placement can be costly.
What qualifies a student for special education or for alternate education?
Okay, so those are two, I'll do alternate education first. That one's a little less, I think. Basically, a student who's removed from the district for disciplinary reasons, we have to still educate them. So that's an alternative education. We have to provide their learning somewhere else.
Could that be a student who's been expelled?
Yes.
Someone who is no longer in the school, the normal school system?
Correct. A student who's expelled, we still have to educate.
But the right to a free public education is protected under the state constitution, so you
have to educate. Correct. We also provide alternate education for, there are students who at times who are medically not able to participate in school. That's one example, but that's a very different set of criteria.
Does that mean you have to send an educator to their home?
Sometimes, yes.
You have to do that. Mm-hmm. Some of these students are able enough to come to school, but require special care.
If they're able enough to come to school, they come to school. So the students that we provide an alternate education for a medical reason, a doctor has signed off saying they are unable to come into a school building for any length of a day.
So at that point in time, you have to send an educator to their home?
Yes.
And what was the other one you said when somebody's expelled?
Yes. Well, that's an alternative education.
It's the same word.
It's just somewhere, we have to provide an education in a different way, is really, but there are a number of circumstances that result in that. Special education, it's a huge project, so I'm going to summarize it.
Condense that one.
Basically, there are about 9 criteria under federal law that if a student's identified as having one of those disabilities and they require specialized instruction, they are generally identified as needing special education services. That determination is generally made by staff in the district who do evaluations, take information from the teacher, and come to the decision that the criteria listed in the law is met, and then they develop a plan to address the needs.
But not on your staff?
Oh, no, it's our staff.
It's your staff?
Yes. 99.9% of the time, it's my staff.
Okay.
Sometimes we have to hire out for a specialist, but that's fairly rare. So yes, it's our staff. We have special education
And as a matter of
teachers.
interest, how many students do you have that fall in that category?
We have, I'm ballparking, we have about 230.
In that category?
In special education? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
How many students in the entire population?
Just under 1,100.
1,100, that
So it's
includes the
20%.
200.
Close to it.
Of the 1,100.
I'm rounding.
Yeah.
Of the 1,100, it's, so you had a big increase this year.
Oh, no, our special ed population is,
I mean, 1,100.
No, that's about the
We
same.
had, it's a little increase. We were over 1,000, we're a little under 1,100. Like I said, I'm rounding, I didn't bring the enrollment number.
Out of that number, how many of the students are East Windsor residents?
You mean student, well,
Versus choice is what he's getting at.
yeah, we have 76 choice seats filled right now.
Of the 76, how many of them were special ed?
Oh, I don't know.
That's his question.
I don't know.
Probably not
I
a number
don't, we
could
can't
give
ask.
anyway.
We can't even ask. When the lottery occurs, we get the people who took the seats.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
So the 77 people, students
Mhm.
that come from out of town are on a lottery basis?
That's a whole, yes, but that whole process is run by CRAC and the choice program. We just do the registration when they get to us.
Once you get a student, one of those 77, do they stay with our system for the entire 4 years?
Some of them come in at kindergarten and stay through 12th grade.
Okay.
Some, they can come in at any grade level that I declare a seat open for
But
them.
once they come here, they basically stay in our system until they complete
Usually, many, some
complete their
don't.
schooling, whether they drop out or whether they graduate, they stay with our
Or
system.
sometimes they move, or...
Yeah,
Yeah.
so sometimes
Yep.
I think they are as transient, students who come into us from the choice program are just as
Transient
transient as our own
residents.
kids, yeah. So, but,
Now, those that got, I'm sorry to interrupt.
that's okay.
Those that are in the expulsion program, that you
Mhm.
have to do whatever, and this
Yeah.
now provide a full day equivalent of education. Are these all East Windsor residents, or they're not? And if they're not, then why couldn't they go back to the town in which they come from?
So
Let them
I'm
handle that.
not gonna say if we've removed students who are or aren't, because once we enroll them, they're our kids. We keep them until they disenroll. So once they have registered, they're our kids regardless. And we get money for all the students through the choice program. That's a revenue source for us. So they give us money to educate them, and if unfortunately the student has to be educated somewhere else, we still have to educate them, unless they withdraw. If they withdraw from East Windsor and choose to register in a different school district, that changes things, but that's no different than any other student.
So if they get expelled, and then where are they getting this education then?
At different places. We have a variety of placements that we refer students to.
So there are other public schools that they go to?
Within our system?
No, they're specialized placements generally that work with students who have been expelled for a variety of reasons.
And that
When
is not in
students
our
are
system?
expelled-
They are not?
Not in
No.
East Windsor Public Schools.
Okay.
Correct. That's generally the vote of the board is, and under expulsion, students are not allowed to be on school grounds, participate in school activities.
Right.
So,
It was my understanding that, and I'm not 100% on this, but in Ellington, that when students are expelled there, that they have space that they rented that is not on the school property, but it's in Ellington, that they go for that education.
I don't know how Ellington deals with their kids.
Okay.
We've got a couple of pretty nice options that we work with, so that we're very happy with, so.
But is the expense greater than doing that?
I would
Year?
say for the amount of students that we have, and hopefully next year it will be none. So I'd like to not get into a long-term rental agreement.
Yeah, if you're
Hope
thinking
for-
about maintaining a building and then you have to staff the building, because you can't just send the kids there, you need to send staff with them. So you're paying, staff a full-time rate to be there full-time during the day.
No, I
So,
understand.
Yeah.
so I think, and when they're not all gonna be in the same grade, so now you're trying to, I think they're better where they are. It's probably in the long haul
It
cheaper,
works.
and it probably works better for the
Yes.
students.
Is this a private college they go to?
No. Generally, no.
So when you expel a student from our system,
Mhm.
they are then placed in some other,
In some other program.
Other
I'm gonna try to
educational
answer for you a
arrangement.
little bit, because
Yeah,
I
you-
can see that your
some
as is
other
acting.
educational
Yeah.
arrangement.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you take out, in effect, short-term contracts with these other areas who will educate,
Yes.
a 1 year or whatever it is.
Whatever the term of removal is that was voted by the board.
And
Yes.
then if that student, is it possible for a student who's expelled to come back into our system?
Mhm.
It must be.
Oh, yes, the board can only vote to expel for up to 180 days.
Okay.
One
School
we can-
days.
We can
School days.
expel a
So after
student
that,
at
they
most
would-
for a full school year.
Okay, and so after that?
They come back.
They come back
They come
into
back.
our system.
As long as they're still a resident
And-
of East
and-
Windsor or an
or
enrolled
allocated
choice
to us.
student. Correct.
And so they would stay in our system
Mhm.
unless you have to expel them again.
Or they move.
Or they move.
Yeah, or whatever the regular. So one of the reasons I wanted to share that with you is because we had an unanticipated cost that we had no control over that drastically increased mid-year. And unfortunately, we did have some situations where we needed to pay for an alternative education, again, not budgeted for. So that's just one factor that played into last school year. The other piece is, this is where, bear with me, we had students, so in special education, one of the more significant levels of service is when a district decides a student has to be educated in a special program outside of the district. So we generally call those special ed day schools, like a day school placement. Those are generally for students with fairly intensive needs that are not able to be met in a district's own programs. So that, it's a significant move to have a student placed in an out-of-district placement.
What would be the criteria for placing a student in that?
It's determined by the planning and placement team, which is the special ed team, and the measure for each student would be different, but generally it is they are not successfully being educated in the placement where they are. So the planning and placement team recommends a more significant level of service.
Because they have learning disabilities?
It could be a variety of disabilities, academic, cognitive, behavioral, mental health, anything. But it's generally they're not being successful where they are, so they can be moved to a higher level of education. One of those is an out-of-district day school placement. The law in Connecticut is that when a student moves into a new district, if they are placed in an out-of-district placement, the bill follows the student. So if I was living in Manchester on Tuesday and attended an out-of-district day school that cost $400 a day, and I move into East Windsor on Wednesday, starting Wednesday, East Windsor pays the $400 a day, even though East Windsor did not budget for the $400 a day. That's how Connecticut does that.
Is that new?
No.
No.
It is an ongoing, my editorial, torturous system that they are looking into making modifications to because it absolutely handicaps districts, as you are seeing, because we're
Years ago.
sitting here.
Years ago, we approached legislators about changing that, such that the money follows the child through the end of the school year, so that the receiving district can then at least have an opportunity to try to budget for that, for the following year.
So the situation we had students that were already attending out-of-district day placements moved in, so we assumed those costs. The total costs for those students, just for tuition, was $723 a day. And their transportation costs, because we have to transport to the placement where they are, was just over $500 a day. Now, those were unbudgeted, and we don't get a vote. When they move in, we have to leave them in their placement unless our planning and placement team has the availability of an appropriate placement in district or somewhere else.
And even at that, it takes some time to work through that process to
Right,
be
you
able
can't
to
do it the
You can't
day
just
of
say the day they
registration.
show up, you can't just move them.
Right.
If you think you have a different or better and more cost-effective way to do the same thing or to do more, then you have that opportunity to work through that and come to agreement and make that change. But
you can't
it takes
do it that
time.
day.
Constitutes $723 a day.
The day school placements can set whatever tuition they want.
I got some questions before you guys start talking again.
I will see if I can.
People that you bring in from other towns,
The students through the choice program?
Like, yeah,
Okay.
that's what you call it.
As opposed to kids moving in?
Yeah.
Okay,
Kids that come to get shipped here.
yeah.
How many of those kids do you have a problem with that you gotta send them out to?
I can't share that. That would potentially identify
All
students.
right, well, let me ask you
Well,
another
I'll tell you-
question. Do we make a profit on this deal?
There
That's
is,
a logical question.
absolutely. We have, so students who we take in from the choice program, we get $8,000 per student to educate them. So we get a revenue
Per year.
per year. So that's a revenue source for us, yes.
Now,
So
when
then
they're
we're
spread
losing
out
money.
throughout, when they're
We're
spread out
losing
throughout
money
the
here.
district, they're filling seats in
So tell me why
classrooms
we
where
do
there's
it.
other students. So
It's a
they're not
revenue source.
talking-
Yeah, but we're
they're not
losing
bringing-
money. It costs way more than that to educate a kid in this town. So
Yep.
why do we do it? Do we have to do it?
Well, now we have to do it because years and years and years ago, we opened seats through the choice program, so we have to maintain those seats.
So tell them the building burnt down or something, there's no more seats.
Doesn't work like that, Steve.
So you gotta figure out a way to cancel it. You're getting 8,000, we're losing money here. So whose bright idea was it to start this program in East Windsor?
Well, but years and years and years ago, it was way before me that there were seats declared, so I can't speak to when it's.
I don't know why we can't stop it. We don't want them here, we don't want them here.
So,
We're not in the
Well,
business of
I
losing
think-
money and
well, I
it
think
coming
it-
out of
I think
my
it's not
pocket
as-
to pay for these out-of-town kids.
I don't think it really works like that, Steve. I think if you think.
Sure it does, you just told us
If
the
you give me a minute
number.
to explain it, no. If you look at the big picture, you have, say, 20 kids per classroom at the high school. If you add kids at each grade, that's 4 kids that come in and fill another classroom, or 10 kids that come in. You're not adding a teacher. You're not adding anything extra except the revenue that they bring with them. So in many ways, it helps us, because we would not be able to do with less teachers if we just got rid of those 3 or 4 students per grade. It wouldn't change the staff that we need or the building that we need. So they actually help us pay our bill in the long haul. And the notion that those students are the only ones we're expelling or the only ones that ever have a problem is absolutely inaccurate.
I didn't say, I
No, no,
asked
no,
a
I'm
simple
just-
question, but
yeah.
you wouldn't answer it.
no, I
You
feel
did
like
answer it.
You couldn't.
I don't feel like I can, no.
But those kids are kids. They're just like our kids that live here. Things happen in both populations.
I'm not smart enough to understand the daily tuition cost of $723.
Okay.
You know,
That's combined for the students who moved in. Every school has a different amount that
no,
they
and I
charge.
understand.
Okay,
So I don't know, you know, how we value that $723. You can't do more than have one student per one teacher. That teacher doesn't get paid 700.
these are not our teachers.
No, I know that.
Oh.
No, but you said that you were sending these special needs students to
Out.
special education
Correct.
facilities
Well-
outside of our system.
Correct.
And that daily tuition cost is $723 per day per student, I guess.
No, per day, this
collectively.
is combined.
Collectively.
Oh,
This is for the,
collectively.
right,
Oh, collectively.
but it is per day.
So if I have to know the number of students you're sending away to really get a feel for what the cost is per student.
But I guess I don't want to say it doesn't, it somewhat isn't, it's not our choice. We have to,
It doesn't
we
matter
have
how
to
many
pay.
students.
No, I know that.
Right.
I'm just trying to get a feel for what that number means.
So let's
I
assume
thought-
it's 2 and
in my infinite
350.
wisdom, I thought you were
I
saying
already got my answer.
that you were taking one student and sending him off to the special education facility, and it was costing us $723 per
There's-
student per day.
No, it's more than one student. And so for the sake of math, because the later it gets and the more complicated we're going to get, I won't be able to do good math. Let's just say 2 students at $350 a day. So-
Is that a reasonable number?
Yes, it's a reasonable number.
And to transport those 2 students to those sites wherever they are, is costing us $507 a day to do that.
Correct.
You know, I could fly them to Miami.
Well, that would be probably probably preferable in the winter, I'm sure they prefer. But, so it depends the distance. Cost is dependent on the distance.
Special
Can we make
vehicle.
it? That's a heck of a lot of money.
Maybe a special vehicle.
I'll be glad to transport those kids in my car, okay?
No, if you
Well,
get
legally you
bus
can't,
fare.
yeah.
I
And I
understand all
suggest
that.
that maybe we look at the root of the current year's problem instead of.
Well,
the-
this
Well, but this
the
is
current
the root
year's
of the
problem.
current year's problem.
So
This is
These
where
are
it
last
starts.
year's expenses that got
Correct.
carried over?
Well, let me share where we
That's
went.
why we're trying
I
to
can
sum up.
go, okay, so we had multiple students move in last school year.
That are still here.
They are still here. Most of these costs were incurred after this year's budget was in process,
So these
So
students
we-
moved in after.
the budget process started. So we were not able to add these students into the FY19 budget request. So not only did we have unanticipated costs last year, that also impacted this. We started behind the 8 ball on July 1 because we had all these unanticipated costs that came in after the budget came to the voters. So to address last year's unanticipated costs, we used revenue sources that we had earmarked for this year's budget. So there had been grant money that was identified in the audit from, I think I said FY16. There had been grant money sitting on the books. I don't know why it was there, but there it was. The auditor said it's the Board of Ed's, Board of Finance said fantastic. It was allocated, we were going to use it as a revenue source for this year, but we had to use it for last year to offset the tuitions that came in. And we had funds available to purchase supplies at the end of last year that were going to be used this year to offset our budget this year. And we had to use that money to offset the budget deficit for last year. So these students moved in, we used revenue to pay for them for last year, and they weren't included in this year's budget.
Which is now starting behind the 8 ball because of
Correct.
those things we had to use to pay for them for last year.
Right, so we lost revenue and increased expense as of July 1. So when I came to the Board of Finance in October, we had a $364,000 budget deficit already. And the reason we found that, we knew we had a budget deficit, but the numbers shake out because we do hiring, staff changes, summer school expenses are finalized, so we were able to get a firm number. And when I came in October, we had that information. Okay, so in addition to the special education costs that we carried over from last year to this year, we had about 18 students who moved into East Windsor who were already attending magnet schools. They didn't leave us to go, they moved into the town but stayed at the school they were already attending. We have to pay for that. So that was an unanticipated cost. We also had,
And that's 102.
correct, so that's another
103K.
expense, right.
Plus any special education costs, should any of those students need special
Right.
education.
We then have to pay for those services at the magnet schools.
Is that very likely? The magnet schools
Well,
are.
Using our numbers.
We have about 18% likelihood if we use the population in East Windsor.
Yeah.
So really, even kids that are going to magnet schools, which are
Yep.
kind of
Oh, yeah.
specialized schools, and
Oh, yeah.
aren't they kind of selective as to who they?
I
they
don't
take?
know what their process is.
Allegedly, it's a lottery, but
Allegedly, it's a lottery, Jason's right. Allegedly, they're not supposed to look at those things.
Quite frankly, I think that we
But from
do.
what you said, is it, if those students weren't attending the magnet schools and they moved into town,
They would
They would have just been absorbed into the public school. And then again, still, if there were special education costs, we would have had to pay for that, but we wouldn't have been paying tuition out to magnet schools.
And then,
if they went to the magnet school, say they weren't in a magnet school, they come here and live here, and then they go to the magnet school, then who would
We're
pay
still
for
paying
that?
for their
We do.
tuition. They live in East Windsor, we pay for their education no matter where they
No, it's where
go.
they live.
Unless it's a private school, we pay for their education.
yeah. So then we had a very small population of students that left us and went to magnet schools, and they had significant special education needs. So they're just that small population, about 4 students, the cost of their special education services were about $160,000.
which, that's a savings though, right?
No, we have to do
No, we
that
have to pay it
For how long?
forever.
forever, as long as they live in East Windsor.
Oh, I thought you said they left. I thought
They
you said
left the
They-
school
so
to
they-
go to
I
magnet.
heard you, they left the town.
No,
Okay.
they left our public schools, went to a magnet school, they continued to be residents.
I
Okay.
misheard.
So the
No,
cost
that's
of
okay.
educating that student is $40,000 a year? You said
There's some-
roughly 4 kids?
Correct, roughly, yes, depending on the
Not every
services
day.
that are needed.
Some kids are more.
Yeah.
What's the cost of educating a student here in East Windsor, like 20K?
Just under. But these are students with
How much is
special.
20.
Just-
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
I did the math last, it was like 23K.
According to the State Department of Ed's last statistics, we were 19 and change.
Okay.
But these are not students who have typical learning needs. They have additional needs. So the special ed team identifies the needs, we pay for them. So this was additional cost that was not anticipated in the budget. So then we had to add the students in who came in the year prior. And then we had students who moved in since the start of this school year. So we accounted for students who moved in last year, but after the budget was submitted. Then we had students who moved in this year that weren't in the budget. And we had these other factors, all compounding to put us behind the 8 ball, basically when school started. So, in addition, in the past, the Board of Ed budget had included a contingency to offset some of these unanticipated special ed costs, but that was removed after FY17. So we don't have any cushion to absorb any of this kind of.
We budget for the known students who are physically in the district at the time we do the budget.
No safety net.
No safety.
No safety net.
And it looks like you budgeted 1% of your total operating budget at that time, but roughly, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Don't know.
187,000, I'm guessing you were spending about 19 million. at that
Oh,
point.
you're talking about the
that,
contingency? Oh, sure, that seems about right. But that was taken out with a budget reduction. So I just, the point of, at one point, we had an ability to absorb some of this, which is gone. We had a budget freeze last year.
Gone because it got spent.
No,
No,
gone because it got cut.
at
Got
budget
cut,
time.
okay.
Yes. We had a budget freeze last year, and we have a budget freeze this year. These were just some of the things that as of October, we hadn't purchased. There continue to be lists. I don't think we've purchased any of this. And like additional classroom furniture, Broadbrook has run out. We don't have any more desks and chairs at Broadbrook. So
There is no empty desk in that building.
No, they've been stealing and robbing Peter and.
they are
We're talking for,
students.
there's no empty chair in that building for students?
Laura put in a request. She said we had run out of desks and chairs.
Oh my God.
Right.
We have bought nothing. When I say when we say budget freeze, we mean budget freeze. If it's not a safety issue or a health issue, we're not buying it.
I guess
That's
I'm a little confused about the Broadbrook School because when I had my nice time over there, that there were, I think, about 500 students in that school.
We're
And
close.
now there's about 300?
No, they're over 450. Broadbrook is our largest building. The high school and the middle school are closer to 350.
Because Broadbrook's got 6 grades technically.
Yeah, pre-K through 4.
The other 2 have 4.
Yeah, so Broadbrook's our biggest
It was
building.
through 7.
Broadbrook is through grade 4.
Okay.
Pre-K through grade 4.
And then the middle school is 5 through 8, and the high school 9 through 12.
Okay.
Yeah, but Broadbrook is definitely our biggest. We also had at least $33,000 in unanticipated maintenance issues this year, such as new furnace at central office, the garage door in the shop at the high school. You can read it. We've had, I don't even want to say everything that could break, because then the one thing we have that hasn't broken will go. I think truthfully, we have one furnace at central office left is the only thing that Roger's watching, because everything else has already been, has died and been replaced.
You can guarantee that'll break on the coldest day.
Clearly.
I thought last year there was money allocated for a new furnace.
We did the oil tank replacement.
In my note when I looked yesterday, it said furnace, but maybe not.
I don't
don't
think there was a
think so.
furnace in the SIP. I think that was the oil tank removal, because that was passed.
I know about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if you're talking about the middle school.
Yes.
The middle
Middle
boiler.
school, yeah, the boiler. This is a furnace at central office. So the little house. I think you're
Next to high
talking
school.
about the,
Yes.
yes, I think you're
The
talking
houses.
about the middle school boiler.
Okay.
That,
Just looking-
yeah,
That was a
that makes
CSP
sense,
project.
thank you. That was a big
That was
project.
a big project.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that we've had a budget freeze, we've also had some other changes that have affected us to the positive, because at one point, the budget, anticipated budget deficit was up to about 460,000. As of the last Board of Ed meeting, it was down to about 267. So it is going down, but it's still there.
Largely because we're not buying anything and we're not fixing anything.
There are things that we have to purchase, like Broadbrook literally is running out of glue sticks. We have to buy glue sticks for elementary school kids. The middle school had to put in a request for pencils, which of course we're purchasing. You have to have, the nurse leader asked for Band-Aids, so we purchased Band-Aids. But
Those are
we're,
pretty inexpensive items.
well, when you're buying them for 1,000, it racks up.
I thought it was just for the elementary
Our nurse
school.
leader buys
She buys
for the
for the whole
district.
district. She
So,
covers the entire
You got a
district.
lot
So
of
the-
injured kids, huh?
we try not to.
We try not to hurt the children, but
Yeah.
occasionally they manage to get themselves into.
Corporal punishment's back again.
It is not, do not say that in any.
It's like shoulder pads, everything comes back again.
No, no
No,
corporal punishment, definitely not.
Last when we spoke here, I think, you had said that there was an issue with the cafeteria or the lunch,
Mhm.
that there was a hole there of 100,000. I don't see that.
60.
I don't see that in
No,
this.
it's not, but the Board of Finance is being kept up to date. It's,
They're technically sort of somewhat separate from us financially, although we typically covered their deficit. However, last year we couldn't because we had our own this.
yeah.
We had our own deficit at the end of the year, and so we couldn't. And so
But
we're
for
working on
next-
that with the Board of
yeah.
Finance.
Exactly.
How is that not part of you if it's in your schools?
It's a it's ironic statement, but it's a self-sustaining program, and the account is held on the town side. But, I mean, we do, it's obviously our food for our students.
Yeah.
So, but in the past years, any deficit that's been had by the cafeteria, by the food service department, the Board of Ed has taken care
Transferred
of.
money in to take
We
care of
have
it.
resolved the deficit, but this year.
And what did the Board of Finance say they were going to do this year?
They're aware of it and looking at it in terms of our complete deficit. I update them every month when we are there about the status. But for the FY20 budget, we did build in a contingency to offset any deficit in the cafeteria line.
I still find it a little unusual that, you have that kind of deficit there. Has an audit been done in that area to see that, procedurally things are okay?
Every year.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's in the town's audit every year.
No,
Yeah.
no. An operational audit. This is not a financial audit.
Those are part of the management statements in the town audit.
You don't understand.
So,
I do understand.
No, you don't.
so I'm confident that she's doing what she needs to be doing. And there's a lot of steps. I had a plan that was laid out for the Board of Finance that Barry identified in ways to improve revenue for the food service department, and we're moving along on those.
You probably know why I'm saying this, because I'm sure you saw the news at the end of the school year last year, the two sisters in that school system that worked in the cafeterias and they took $500,000.
Well, that would be part of the financial audit. So that,
Well, they did this over years, so the financial audit is done annually. That's not an operational audit. I'm talking about an operational audit. Somebody goes and tracks them. I don't want to get too delayed here, because you've been
So,
there a long time.
I
The
think,
majority of our kids don't pay with cash anyway. They're paying through the card. Their school ID
It's automated.
is
That's
an
still part of
automated
the
payment.
process of auditing.
Yeah.
See, I find it hard to believe it's 60,000.
It-
Something's
well,
not.
salaries, well, I didn't come with all the
Yeah,
data,
yeah,
all the
that-
data
yeah,
about
yeah.
the
I
cafeteria
don't get distracted
deficit,
with
because that was not,
Yeah, no.
that was not the piece of the Board of Ed deficit that we went to the Board of Finance with. That actually, the cafeteria deficit, we knew about, but the need to put a plan in place and for the Board of Ed to put a contingency in budgets going forward
Yep.
came out of the audit. So this actually went to the Board of Finance prior to the conversation about the cafeteria.
Okay.
So, so that's where we are.
It sounds like you have had two sources of extraordinary revenue that you had to use.
Correct.
And that's 160K plus
I know,
170.
So
yeah, those were one-time.
The 160,000 will definitely never be, that was, you know, I don't want to say found grant money, it was available at one time, but,
Yeah.
so that would definitely never be, again, and this year, because of the deficit, we're not able to purchase supplies that would be used across school years. So you're right, we took two one-time revenue sources and used them to offset the deficit for last year.
To the tune of about $330,000.
Correct. So the state is looking at ways to manage the special education cost better. There's a committee that has been meeting to talk about different ways. I'm not sure they've hit on one that's fantastic yet, but it is in process. It's been recognized that this is not a long-term way for districts to do business because it's a day-to-day change. We could have a student move in that comes with a significant cost, and we could have a student move out that takes with them a significant cost.
Sometimes the,
Yeah,
you
it swings
get
one way, and sometimes it swings the
I
other
just
way.
can't think of the logic why they even put that through there.
I'm with you there.
I
That doesn't
don't
make
get
sense.
Like I said, 10 years ago probably, when I first joined the board, that we approached the guys in Hartford to try to start making changes to that. And I know it's been discussed, and I know it continually comes back up. I think they're getting actually closer. I think the wheels move very slowly there, so they're getting closer to coming up to some.
But they definitely need to find a
So
different
the
way.
267K deficit that currently is,
That was-
you're working on, working down, it sounds like you've been able to do something with it.
We've been able to do something, but,
And
The asterisk should be included, though, that that's situational. They could have.
tomorrow
They
it
could
could
have
change.
a high-cost student leave the district, or they could have a high-cost student come into the district.
Or they can make it
Correct.
worse. And in fact, we did talk to our staff, there's certain things that get encumbered throughout the year, or certain projects, like the facilities doing outside, grass seed or fertilizer, I should say. That kind of stuff that does get done in the spring, typically purchase orders don't happen until closer to the spring, and therefore money is not encumbered until closer to the spring. So Chris asked the staff to please go encumber everything that you can, that you know we have to do. The things that we must do need to be encumbered so that we can get a cleaner picture. That's likely to push that deficit up a little bit higher as they start to do that, because right now all that money is contributing to bringing it down.
but currently it's 267.
As of the last Board of Ed
As you see it now.
as of the last
As of
Board of
today,
Ed
yes.
meeting,
And
that's what it was.
that's on us, the town, we've got to find a way of fixing that.
Well, we've been working with the Board of Finance. At this point, quite honestly, I think the time period for doing anything, like, we can't do layoffs at this point. We would basically be closing the schools to recoup that kind of money at this point in the year. So, we've been working with them, but you folks wanted to know sort of how we got where we are.
So what are you going to do, put it on a credit card for the next year?
We have to close the books out in balance.
How, had you already purchased all of those laptops that you came before? Or can that be held?
That was an added appropriation. That wasn't out of our local,
That wasn't
out of our budget.
And we
Can
can't
that
delay
be
that
used?
because the current
That
laptops are
230K
out.
be
It's also a different pot of money.
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
The laptops that they're replacing are out of warranty. And the cost of maintaining laptops out of warranty instead of buying new laptops is significant.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty big hunk of money. And, to go to, like, the Chromebooks, that would be
That
savings
wouldn't
there.
work
would
for
not-
us. We would have to change all of our infrastructure and our operating systems, and that would be a significant cost to do that.
Well, to maybe purchase half of them at one time, because they're also half, most of them gotta be pretty good yet.
Well, they're not in, we have a chunk of them, approximately a third of the laptops that we have are coming out of warranty. And if we have to repair them and pay for the repairs, it's about $50,000 a month.
But you haven't purchased these new ones yet from that allocation.
So last year, there was an added appropriation for purchase
For the
laptops.
first
For
third.
$230,000.
Right, we purchased those. Those were purchased
Those
last
are all
year.
purchased?
They were
Correct, they're
purchased,
being
right,
used.
in the
And
summer,
in
so that the
inventory.
students could get them in the
Yes,
fall.
they are
yeah.
being used by students
So that's
today.
gone, that opportunity, if there ever is an opportunity to move money, it's gone.
That was
There
gone.
really wasn't an opportunity though, because we can't continue to use the ones we have without spending that money
To
to
repair.
repair, and then you've got nothing at the end of repairing. It's much more, fiscally responsible to just replace them and keep them under warranty, because then there you have that for 5 years. We could spend that kind of money in 1 year doing repairs and then not have anything next year.
So any areas that you see that you can reduce your spending from what you budgeted between now and the end of the year?
I have reduced, I've reduced to the point of, it's almost absurdity at this point. I mean, the nurse is asking permission to buy Band-Aids. That should not be a level of, she should not have to ask to buy Band-Aids. She should just be able to purchase Band-Aids.
We also supervisors, the superintendent's signature to buy a Band-Aid.
We also had a resignation of our curriculum director. We didn't fill that position. I am trying to do 2 jobs. It's
For
not
the
going
remainder
all
of this year.
Yeah, not going all that well, quite frankly. There's a lot of stuff from the curriculum director side that's not getting done. But that's a significant savings. So
We put that's part of what brought that total down.
And whether it's salaries or operating costs or whatever, the reality is we're 2/3 of the way through the fiscal year. With every day that goes by, that becomes harder and harder to close through spending plans.
There is no way to do it through spending. As Chris said, you literally, to save that much money, you wouldn't, you just pretty much have to put all high school kids in one room and throw a teacher in there. You should, it's not, it's just not, it's not feasible.
I got a question. Ain't a good one. You guys got, and I stood up there when they were gonna give you that money for those computers, and I was against that. I'm gonna say it right here, I'm against voting to give you any kind of monies today, anytime. Over the previous year's budget, with the increase, you guys got over $1 million more. Where did that $1 million go? I said to take 200 of it and buy the computers. You know, where did that million, every year you guys get another $1 million. Okay? Where the hell is the money going? And don't tell me budgets, pay raises and benefits. I don't want to hear that. Because if it is, we've got a problem here somewhere. So,
Well,
so where's the money going?
We're looking at, and the
Where's the
insurance
money
company
going?
came in with a 25% increase in the cost of insurance this year. That's not within our control. They're down around 18 now, I believe.
right now it's 18.
But that's a lot more than 2% each year. And it's been high for years.
So the insurance covers what, liability at the school?
No, I'm
Health
talking about health
insurance.
insurance
Health
for our
insurance.
employees.
For the employees. So that adds up to $1 million.
Not alone, no. There's a lot of, you just heard the changes in mandates that we have to pay more to educate students who can't stay in our schools for one reason or
No,
another.
I just heard all of that, yeah.
Yep, so there's a lot of things that contribute to that, Steve, and they continually, that's part of the world of government, is we continue to get new things that we are required to do, new training that we have to provide our staff, training in
CPR.
Narcan training has to get done at some level. There's, we have to stock EpiPens. That's the law. We have to stock EpiPens. They're expensive.
$700 a piece.
They're, all these things, in and of themselves may be small, but over the course of years, adding more and more and more of these each year.
The health insurance is certainly a big bite, and that has been over time. And have you discussed going to the state plan, the 2.0 plan, because of the significant savings that we see there, because we're introducing that into other areas of the town? And I know Summers, they adopted that across the board last year, and they had a huge savings in that town.
So when we last did teacher negotiations, which I wasn't the superintendent at the time, but one of the elements of the teacher contract is that anytime we're negotiating, we look at the state plan. So they did look at it at the time, but I don't believe it was comparable to the health plan that was in place at the time.
Comparable in benefits or comparable in cost or?
Benefits, yeah. So there's some interesting, because I've heard some people talk about there's significant savings going to the state plan, and then I've heard from other people that districts have gone to the state plan, recognized the significant savings in year one, and then in subsequent years the cost goes up significantly. So the savings is realized for 1 year, and then
it's not the data that I saw. We had someone come from the state to give a presentation on what it is and reviewed the benefits. It's a very rich plan for employees, and the savings is, it'll get to the point where there probably won't be an option for the employees, because just like companies, you can't continue to fund certain things that are so extravagant. When there is, I'm not saying to take major things away or anything away from anybody, but if there's another plan that can offer, the same thing. The biggest part of the state plan is that your rates are based on experience.
ours are as well.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, that's the way those plans work. But with the state, why that is so much cheaper, and it doesn't, the data I saw does not have spikes after year one at all, is that the problems or the experience level, that's melted across all of the state employees. So rather than, I don't know, if you have 100 teachers or whatever, okay, whatever the number is, we're talking, 250,000 people. So that's why the rate is so much less. And I went through the plan, and I'll tell you, compared to the ones we have here, I don't see a difference. In fact, better in some instances.
Well, I'll have to get more information about, the information that was provided. But,
okay.
We definitely look at plans every time.
I'll send you the guy's name that you can call him, and he'll gladly come and give a presentation at one of your meetings of what it's about, how it works, and what the cost is.
Okay. So that's fine. We'll take information.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Because you could spend that money somewhere else.
Well, we continue to negotiate with the insurance companies, as I'm sure Bob well knows.
Yeah, but he's right. We've been doing some, and if you're going to replace a PPO type plan, this state 2.0 is good. So health, HSA, well, you might even save there. So when you do go to negotiate,
Well, in our last negotiations, we moved everyone to a high deductible plan.
Well, that's a good place to be.
Everyone is on a high deductible plan.
So
that was a significant savings for us when we made that move 3 years ago.
The contribution so that.
But, it's a savings once, and then, yes, it does kind of stay down there, but you don't see a drop.
Every year.
Because then it starts to climb back up as the rates change.
And the reality is, if the contract's not due, you can't do anything about it to solve your immediate problem anyway.
No.
When is the contract done?
Teacher's contract, I believe we begin negotiations in the fall.
So it's time to do it then?
Well, not now. We start in the fall.
The current fiscal year problem, not the next fiscal year problem.
Correct,
That
we're
was-
talking about a
yeah.
current fiscal year problem.
Right.
No, but I'm saying, it's not too soon to start it if they start in the fall.
Oh, no.
The
no.
research, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
But you still have a current fiscal year problem.
And anything that we negotiate in the fall is not going to help us for next fiscal year either. That contract takes place after that.
Oh, is it a July 1 implementation date?
I believe it
It
is.
is, yeah. So, hopefully we answered,
Well,
at least, hopefully you have.
thank us for
information.
coming. And you're feeling better, I felt bad.
Thank you for
Watching
moving me up very much, I
Yes.
appreciate it
That
greatly.
is-
Glad to be out of here early.
Yeah, glad you're out of here early.
Yeah, wow.
Hey, I've almost circled the clock. But, thank you.
Good night.
Nice seeing you.
You as well, thank you. You're welcome. I try to sound chipper, it never
Well,
works.
you probably have to do it tomorrow again.
My wife said this should be a major audit, that school system down there.
Good job.
For a while.
Same with town hall.
That's, don't count on that continuing.
$1 million.
Oh, all right. Good night.
Just keep feeding, Steve.
What's that?
Just keep feeding. $1 million a year.
That's what you're doing, you're giving them over $1 million a year, every
Okay,
year.
can we move along?
Yes, I think we're running out
Yes,
of
let's keep moving
at
on.
nighttime, we'll be here at dawn. Okay, so board and commission resignations and appointments, and I do have Bonnie Oski's resignation letter, and this is what she wrote. Dear Bob, after the last meeting of the Charter Commission held on January 28th, I have seriously thought about the comments from other elected officials about the makeup of the Charter Commission. Because it has been expressed that there are too many older members serving on this commission, I have decided to tender my resignation effective immediately. It has been my pleasure to serve on this commission and work with the outstanding group of individuals, Bonnie Oski. So that's her resignation. And,
Who made that comment about having too many old people on there?
I think many people have made that comment, but I'll tell you, wow, you asked, and
Could I just make a few words?
yes,
I've been sitting in on that commission's meetings pretty much fairly often since the first of the year. Those people are really working hard, and they're doing a good job. Bonnie Oski is a contributor to that. She has good comments. She works well with the people on the rest of the commission. It would be a sad loss to lose her from that commission. I'd like to make a motion that we not accept her resignation. I don't know if that's possible or not.
There goes your pay increase.
Or just set it aside and not act on it tonight, and have someone go back to her and see if we can convince her to stay on. She's an important member of that commission.
I would go along with that. I don't think we have to do it tonight. She's resigned, but we can go talk to her and say,
That's right.
have
Let's-
reconsider.
Let's let that lie. No, I will talk with her. And let me say this, for the time that I've been working with that group, that what's been so valuable are people that have been around for a while, that have the history of the charters and worked on before, that you've taken out a lot of unnecessary time by having that experience level, pumping that information into those meetings to come out with things that are going to be more valuable to the town as we move forward with that. And she is one of those people.
I agree.
It would be a major loss to have her leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is, this is kind of like the same thing, discussion of the charter revision. And I did attend the meeting last night, and they voted down the funding the recording secretary for the rest of the fiscal year. So that's that. We'll try to do something else.
Well, I don't think that I want to have that just lie like that. I think we have some things to, perhaps some options there as to how that will change.
I'm thinking, and I think actually somebody did make a good suggestion, that maybe we can change the scheduling of things around in here so they can meet in here on Mondays. So that would be one thing.
I have some other thoughts on how we can bring that bias out and have ourselves to, a fair play to this, because it's not.
I agree. In that discussion I had with the Board of Finance last night, they were quite insistent that they only did this for financial reasons, and I think there's a lot of political reasons. That's what it said in the JI, and I think, but I don't want to get into that now. Time's going by, so tonight, so I'll just leave it there. If anybody wants to make a comment, further comment, that's fine. Okay, casino, and
I will say that I was there when, one of the Board of Finance members did comment about the people were too old.
and
So,
well, another thing
that's fair.
Also, if you look at what happened when we brought asked them for $3,000 to fund 24 meetings, the first thing they did was vote no on the 3,000, and then if you look at their minutes, the next thing that I was there, and then they moved that for $2,400. They voted no again, and finally they moved for $1,500, and they voted yes 3-2. Well, that meant 2 people voted no, even when they didn't want to give us any money.
Right.
So I didn't understand that, but such is life.
That's significant.
Yeah. Okay, the casino. I just found out today, really, and I guess it just, maybe yesterday it came up, that the Public Safety and Security Committee is holding a public hearing Tuesday, February 26th, at the Legislative Office Building. It starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I also have and I know Andy's going to go too, and maybe you, Charlie, I'm not sure. We have a DEEP and DECD meeting on the Broadbrook Mill on February 26th. So I'm going to try to, and that's at 11:30. So I'm going to try to, if I can get scheduled early, and I'll try to, I'll stay there until as late as I can, but I want to get to the 11:30 meeting on the Broadbrook Mill. And
This one is at what time?
10 o'clock it starts.
10 o'clock. Okay.
And the mill meeting is at the DECD facility in Hartford at 11:30 to 12:30.
Okay.
So, but if anybody can go to the hearing, that's good to show support. So
I
that's
see it was on Tuesday.
Tuesday the 26th. In fact, if you want to take this, tell us all about it. And they're going to be talking about SB 11, which is the one that would get rid of the criteria that it has to be in the Federal Register, and so we could build a casino here. Any further discussion on the casino? And next agenda item is just the budget workshops. I'll say that our next budget workshops are February 27th and 28th at 6 o'clock. So keep that in mind. We might have a one after that, but we can determine that later. Another item is Chris Davis, our real estate agent, has signed with the, I believe his name is White, James White, for the purchase of 132 Wells Road.
So we're on new business now then, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion, I move to approve the sale of town property located at 132 Wells Road to James White, map 95, block 24, lot 54, for $2,000 and move to a town meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the final item on new business is a discussion of the beautification committee.
On the 5-year plan.
We did that. You were absent.
We kind of already did that.
Go ahead.
Was it there? I'm sorry.
What'd you miss?
The 5-year plan, I'm sorry.
Oh, wow, yeah. That was at the beginning.
You didn't miss anything, trust me.
He wasn't absent.
I was absent, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, the beautification committee. Do you want to talk about that, Charlie, at all?
Yeah, you know, we had said we were going to go and, you know, develop a committee for town beautification, and we need to probably get started on that and get some members. I've had one person reach out to me already that said that she would like to be on it. And I think the first part to this is, you know, it's not just light sites, but it's, I think we should focus on enhancing the beauty of public access areas. That's what they do in other towns. You know, how do you do that? You get people who are interested in that. You know, how do we get the park cleared differently when you drive up to the parks? Just about really anywhere in town that's a public access area. In Vernon, as an example, they have the is it rails to trails that they have where people do that walk through, and we have obviously the tracks here that aren't being utilized, and you know that might be a nice thing to do, to have a walking trail on those tracks that go up to a certain point within the town. Those are just a couple things, but I think we should start, you know, asking to see if we can get some members, you know, people who would like to participate in this, and get this kicked off in, you know, the first quarter of this year with some people on there. Yes, sir.
You know, it all sounds good, and I think I said this before. Where are you gonna get the money?
Well,
You're gonna fight with the finance board or whatever again to get money to, you know, like all the parks should have nice signs put up.
yeah.
Nice signs like all the other towns. You always have a nice sign out there and it's landscaped and whatever, you know? It'd be the first thing you see every time you go anywhere, you know? And stuff like that, to beautify things, make things look pretty.
Well,
Where are you gonna get the money?
well, right now, I don't know, but right now, we don't have.
It's gonna be a battle.
But we don't have, you know, any plan to talk to the Board of Finance about, to say, we've got this beautification, this is what they came up with. We'd like to do this over here, we'd like to do, we think that that would be a great enhancement for people to have more participation in the public areas within the town. Now, I know the River Heritage Group, you know, they do their stuff down there and everything, you know, that should be tied into this. There's a lot of things within town that people don't take advantage of, because a lot of it they don't know about. And, you know, we don't make it the prettiest place either, you know, to attract people to do that. You know, you gotta have curb appeal to get people involved, and that they're proud of their town, and that's a big part of it. Are you proud of your town, proud of where you live? Because that sort of becomes contagious, and then you have, you know, homes being built and more people living in the town. It's just a mechanism to start something.
Whatever happened to our blight program that we, I mean, you drive around town here, and to be honest with you, East Windsor looks pretty dumpy.
That's what I'm saying.
People aren't taking pride in keeping their yards clean. They're just not. And I can name a shitload, but I don't want to have a cross, you know, hairs between my head here, you know what I mean?
4 weeks ago, I gave Ruben a list of five places in town that I thought action should be taken to clean them up. I don't know if he's done anything or not. I was gonna go talk to him after Monday, after we had an Economic Development Commission meeting, so I had two things to talk to them about, but I agree with you. The town is not neat and clean like it used to be or like it should be.
People just, for some reason, don't have pride in their properties. You know, you can get out and mow the lawn, you can pick up the garbage. I mean, come on, you know, it's just, there's no need for it. There's no need for it. I mean, if the people who live there are elderly, they're sickly, and they can't do it, then maybe there's something, maybe the town might be able to help them out a little bit, you know?
But it goes back to pride, you know?
Yeah.
And I think having this committee.
But the beautification committee is a good idea, and I don't know, Steve, where you get the funding for it, but you won't know whether you can get funding or not until you try.
Yeah.
So I think it's a
I mean,
good
I'm not
idea.
against it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it should be
I think it's a good
done.
idea.
Okay.
I'm gonna say something along this because it just happens to fit. On Facebook, they have an East Windsor Community Cleanup Day. And I went to a meeting of that Sunday, 1 o'clock at Chamber of Commerce in the Opera House. And it was the first meeting, and this Erica Guro is kind of heading up a lot of it. She posted something on Facebook, and I'll read what it says. It says, "We have made a Facebook event for our community cleanup," and they're kind of they're thinking about it coinciding with Earth Day, so which is April 22nd. Yeah. I am having issues adding people as co-hosts from my end, and that has something to do with Facebook. I don't know what a co-host is. From my end, if there are not friends, if we are not friends on Facebook, so that's, people may be able to request a co-host and it will pop up. Please help us make this event a great and successful. While we are still in the beginning stages of planning, we have listed some ways in which everyone can help in the description of this event page. As for information is set in stone, as more information is set in stone, we will use this page to put out a public notice. Please contact us if any questions or if you would like to help in any way. As a reminder, this is not the appropriate page for politics, bickering, disrespectful language, and behavior. We are all volunteers joining together to help our community. Please keep us positive and helpful. So I'm going to go again to that meeting. So you're looking for people. There's some people right there that have the same spirit that you guys have. And I said that too, to just encourage people if they have an inclination to help on Earth Day or around that time.
I don't think
we're organizing something.
Yeah, that's not been done in a while, I don't think, but it was done years ago. And that people signed up and they took particular sections of roads and they went and picked all the trash up, and then Highway Department went and picked it all up afterwards. It was in bags and so forth. And it was nice, you know, it did a good job. Things really looked better at the end of their thing, you know, but that kind of fizzled out over time. But now it's back, that's good.
Yeah.
It is generally focused on the river area though, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We do source the sea in the fall. And I think 3 years in a row, we filled a 30-yard dumpster.
Wow.
But a lot of that was cleanup along the Scannick River, or the Connecticut River, North Water Street. Mostly there was a lot of trash up there. We did clean up the Scannick. We cleaned up behind Pigeons and over here. We cleaned up the Scannick too, but you know, there's still people dump off refrigerators. They throw them over on Mill Street. They throw it over the bank and stuff. You know, we got tires and stuff every year. We pick up a couple. But I'd also like to comment at all our trails. We do have a kiosk. We have a kiosk on Cemetery Road, and we have a kiosk in Melrose. That tells you that that Melrose is a state park, and it's got information in the bulletin board. So it doesn't have a name because we hit roadblocks when we tried to name something a few years ago, and we just gave up. So But it'd be really nice to have a sign sometimes. But unfortunately, a sign also attracts something that we don't want. So,
Vandalism?
Enfield problems on the river.
This one area,
Hmm?
talk about Potter Hall.
Yeah, they all of a sudden it becomes a swimming hole for everybody, and then you've got more litter and more cleanup.
Oh.
So if you don't name it sometimes,
Self-sustaining.
so if you don't name it, sometimes you might be better off.
Good thought.
Okay. We'll move on to selectmen comments and reports. So Andy, anything to report?
I believe there's going to be an Economic Development Commission meeting on Monday. It sounds like there are enough people who are going to show up. Bob, did you send in you're going to be there?
Yeah, I was supposed to meet Gil tonight, but he couldn't get in my driveway. But I'll call him tomorrow and give him the agenda.
He said he's going to be there.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, then we got a quorum.
And Eric said he's going to be there. So I think you have a quorum.
Yeah,
for
I'm
Monday
going to be
night.
there too, so you'll have an
Monday
extra.
night.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay, Jason?
On February 9th, Abby's Helping Hand did their winter gala, and I think they had their largest turnout to date with about 170 people. On the 11th, the first meeting of the Youth Services Bureau was held at the Town Hall Annex. There were, I believe, 11 participants. They have an obligation to meet, I think, 6 times a year. And they're starting to frame out a mission statement about what it is that they're going to be working on. I looked at Windsor Locks, Enfield, Vernon, and a couple other towns as benchmarks for that. We had budget workshops on the 19th and tonight dealing with the Police Department, Warehouse Point Fire District, Human Services, Parks and Rec, Senior Center, and the assessors. That's pretty much it.
I heard that the youth center is starting up.
It's not the Youth Center, it's Youth Services Bureau.
Okay, youth services.
And there's a distinction. If again, think of a bicycle wheel with the center hub and spokes coming off of it. They're trying to service different aspects of what youth and families might be trying to address, whether it be behavioral issues, poverty, addiction issues, that type of thing. It's not a youth center.
No, it's not a youth center, but it is for the youth. And
Yes.
So maybe there's some flexibility in what they can do. So we'll see. Okay. Charlie, maybe you want to say?
Yeah, just as an update with the meetings with the 2 fire departments and exploring the either fire district or just a fire department, 1 fire department for the town. That continues to progress. Talked with Tom Arcari, the chief of Broadbrook. He said it's moving along. It's going to take some time, but it's in motion.
Good.
So that's good. That's as of Monday. The other thing is I had sat in on the meeting with Public Works and the contractor and the company that provided the materials for the new roof on the Broadbrook school, on the middle school, which has been leaking since they put it on there. They're following up with that. There was supposed to be a meeting yesterday with the architect and those other 2 individuals at the school, but because of the ice on the roof, couldn't go up there to check that and to see what changes might be made. So that's been moved out another week, and we'll have to see how that goes, but I will be attending that meeting as well.
Steve?
Nothing.
Could I ask a question before
Sure.
we move on? Charlie, do you have any definitive progress that they're making in the fire department? You know, we listened yesterday, I guess it was, or a day or so ago, about to the Warehouse Point Fire Department, who wants to get equal amounts of money from this year's budget. But I don't know what's happening. I don't know whether we're making any real progress or not on the discussions.
Yeah, you know, I didn't get down to real details with Tom, but he did say, you know, they're moving forward, but there's so many different pieces to this, and I think, I don't know if they're trying to tackle too much at one time or not, but I'll get with him and get more detail as to where they're
If you recall, at the last meeting, we were invited to attend.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them a 10 or 15 item
Yes.
chart that said, you know, fill in the dates on these things. And I told them there was no pride in authorship, but I thought they should have a schedule that they're working to. Are they doing that, or are they just
I
just
do not
working?
know. I do not know, but I will.
If they're just working, then we got popcorn.
Yeah. I'll talk with them again and get more information.
Steve?
Well, I don't know. After that meeting with the fire department, I was talking to the guys. I threw something at Charlie, I think it was. Didn't I talk to you about what I thought I had for a plan?
What was your plan?
Well, it was to tax everybody. You know, they kind of convinced me, because we're going to have to do it. The guys aren't showing up to the fires. Well, I told them, I said, I don't want to hear that word district. We're not going to have a town-wide district. Get rid of that word district. All right, and we'll figure out another way to tax. Like they're like 1 point something down in Rouse Point. If we had, now like what he said about, you know, their budget's a lot cheaper because we maintain the building and everything for them, you know. They pay for everything. That's understandable. He was 100% right in that. But you're gonna, you know, this can be done if everybody paid a tax in town, maybe 1%. And that would give those 2 fire departments enough money to operate. The only issue that there's gonna be, and that's gonna be with Warehouse Point, they're gonna have to give up all their toys. They'll have to turn the buildings over to the town so the town can maintain them. Like we do this one. And they're gonna have to turn those fire trucks over to the town of East Windsor. So that we maintain them, take care of them. And with like a 1%, that's why I was asking her about the numbers tonight. What was a 1% on this and that, right? And you'd have enough money left over to probably put into a lockbox for future use down the road. We're gonna end up hiring fire guys. We're gonna have to, because the guys aren't showing up. They're not coming to the fires.
There's
Okay?
reasons for that, but you're right, they're not coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
and there'd probably be a little bit of money left over where you put in that lockbox to maybe buy a fire truck down the road when they need it. You know, things like that, equipment. And I don't know, I'm thinking 1%.
Yeah, okay, well,
You know,
I think there's a long, you know,
that's my thing.
long ways to go. It's just
I know, but it's gotta be talked about
Yeah.
to each one of these fire departments. And they've gotta not be stubborn. And just say, okay, this sounds good, we can hire some guys maybe. And this way they're getting what they want. They wanna tax the whole town. So now they're finally getting me on board, but if they wanna talk fire district, I'm out of it. I'll fight it to the end before there'll be a tax on this side of town.
Good enough. Okay.
That's my speech.
And I don't have anything.
And I'm sticking to it.
But I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second, move.
Is there a second? I'll second it, Jason. All those in favor?
All right, so we don't have an executive session tonight?
Nothing to bring points. Robert?
No. Send me the names of them kids that shovel the snow so Joe can walk up my driveway.
Oh, okay,
Remember you
the ones
were
that my
gonna-
mother-in-law used.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, yeah.
I felt terrible, he was supposed to come see me tonight. I didn't have snow removal.
Okay.
No, I know. My driveway? You've got two good legs.
Yeah, but your driveway does, the sun, doesn't it?
Pretty cool. I'm gonna rent the billboard on
They got that
91.
wall, arborvitae trees on the wall. And you know what? I've been in that house, what, almost 50 years?
No, I understand.
45.
That's why
I don't own
I'm scared.
that wall.
Remember I gave you that?
I planted all the trees up there and it was on the Turner's property. I paid to have them all cut down. It was on the Turner's property. When the surveyors came in for the project, I don't even own that house. Where were you?
Jason,
Yes, Steve.
I got a question I wanna ask you before you leave here tonight.
You got until I get to my car.
Huh?
You got until I get to my car.
Really, where the guy is now?
Something that eaten my crop
Dog
for
and he's.
quite a while.
Yeah.
The blue house, that's where I grew up.
I said.
So, I'm really leaving.
Pardon?
I'm really leaving. You want to ask me something?
Lester Riggins was my neighbor across the street.
Here we go. That's where it wasn't your neighbor question, it used to be in Lake Park, or,
Hey, Andy, that thing that Kathy Seminelli gave you, the change? Yeah. Do you have a, could I have that copy back?
Yeah.
I'm not, well, I haven't been.
It's a simple matter. All I gotta do is listen to the damn.
Exactly, I just wanted to see when I find it in the tape, when it,
You know,
so I got the.
I told her that, you know, I said, the video's there, just plain, if that's what was said,
Yeah,
that's what it should be.
yeah.
There's no big magic about this goddamn thing.
A couple of weeks ago.
I just have to believe that what's on the tape, on the
Minutes.
the video is what Peg's got there. She listens to that video patiently,
Yeah, well, yeah, but it was funny.
and
Yeah.
And Kathy is bullshitting, because she told me exactly what I told her. And, you know, and she can say what she wants,
We'll look at
but,
the tape.
you know, but she,
That was on the 7th?
that discussion that I relayed was exactly what it was.
Hey, Bob, can you give that to Melissa? In your office?
Well, Melissa and Amanda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I borrowed it from Melissa.
Oh, okay, good.
If you mind giving it back to her? I forgot to bring one.
You said E about it. I didn't realize it. You know what it is? E isn't everything.
So,
So,
No.
I just have to do it for the first one. I don't know that.
And Bob,
I guess I wouldn't be able to.
meeting in Hartford at the legislative building, that's on Tuesday.
Tuesday, 26th at 10 o'clock.
Is it important for the selectmen to be there? Because I could ride down to that meeting with you and go over to the DECD meeting at the same time you do.
Well, yes, I mean, you could. And this is just the way I was thinking, is that I would go to that meeting at the legislative office building, and they said that because I'm a elected official, they wanted me to speak, so then.
And that's fine.
And then, but I have to wait my turn, they would try to get me up, and I would sit there until, maybe 11:20 or something. I might just walk. It's not too far.
Say his name?
But it is, it's a half mile or more.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know where it was. What'd you say?
I used to do some work for them for about 5 years. It's on Hudson Street. Their address is 505 Hudson Street, but the address that we were given was 240 Columbus Boulevard. Now, I think that the building actually sits on Hudson Street. The main entrance to it is 505 Hudson Street, but the address that we were given to go to is 240 Columbus, which I think is the back side. Now, I was going to take a ride down there Sunday morning and see where it is. I think that address of 240 Columbus, I think, is the back side of that block, and there's an entrance, a gated parking lot where we can go into and as long as we tell them what we're about, we can go into and park there. The parking on Hudson Street is terrible.
Let me.
But if you think it's important for the board, for the members of the board to show the flag, I can go down with you. But I don't mind missing that either. It's a lot easier for me just to run down to the DEC meeting. I don't want to miss that one.
No, and I don't want to either.
I really think you should be there.
Yeah, I will.
And,
that's why I'm going to be there, that's for sure. I thought I would hang out and waiting for a chance to speak as long as I could. And then I said, can't do it anymore. I wouldn't be late.
But it's a good hike.
Yeah, but you went through this the last time. Not quite sure. It's safe enough for white families so that, we're not going to lose the house. You can live all right. Not big. No, it's all in here, but that's close. It's, yeah, it's. Yeah. Should we'll do the care. First, the big coming was the first. My parents. My mother, you take care of this life. My God, home. I went to daycare. She went back to Animal. And she did it with Ryan. She did it with Heather. We used to take them over there to the daycare. My wife actually did too. They over there on Phelps Road. Yeah. The Lynn woman right there. It was the church. Oh, yeah, I know. He was right there, and then the daycare was right there. He had a Nike. Oh, okay, yeah, so that's Stephanie Hayes' yeah, Hayes. Yeah, Hayes is right. Hayes. School person, all the kids, man, the whole family takes steps, works, and the kids go to daycare. And then when we were on Prospect Hill, I was in a big weekend on Dairy Farm, right there with them. That was Dairy Farm. It was a big ass dairy. Okay, so then, there was always somebody there. There was a big family with all those aunts and uncles. The kids would watch, like, on whatever, get on the bus, this and that, the other ones went out to their big town, right? They'd go to work, as always, some home, when the kids got off the bus. That's how we did it, everybody worked. Well, that's the plan for now. We have another one, we actually have to sit down with the paper next one. Because it's not cheap. Daycare, there's just a lot. It's going to be one of my work. It's not cheap.
Yes,
That's why people don't go to work to, daycare. I don't know who's,
all right. So we have another week with ag, and then shuffling off that. No commissioners named yet. My position will be vacant for months afterwards, because we're not going to be able to fill it. Just of the process. The agency's in trouble. You know, so the governor's budget proposal came out yesterday, and it's the best budget agency I've seen since I've been in terms of funding, staffing, programs. But there's no leadership. You know, there's going to be no institutional knowledge. So when I walk out, they are perfect.
are they gonna have anybody in that office that knows what the hell's going on?
I can talk to you guys about that starting on Friday.
We've already been looking into a lot.
This is our processing right there.
Going to Tennessee, another couple of weeks. There's a guy right up here above Benson's and down, he's growing 10 acres. I got all the applications and shit from Mass.